Hey everyone, welcome back to MetaVerse. I think last night did this was in October or sometime around there. But this is MetaVerse episode 66, and I have Skylion with me today.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me better than you heard me last time.
Yep, and Irene's joining us as well.
Hey guys!
Yes, our lovely Irene in Japan.
Right, yep.
Yay!
Yep. That's what I was gonna say. Most part don't know that,
It's
but
morning.
yes. Oh yeah, it's like 9:53 for me right now at night, so it's like.
Yeah, edit that if you don't want that to be known.
Well, yeah.
Sorry.
I don't want to out you or anything
No,
like
it's,
that.
it's fine.
No, it's fine. I
Okay.
haven't actually had time to tell anybody online anyway.
Right, yeah, I was like,
Screw
people
it.
are
Live
like,
your life.
where's he been? Like, yeah, well, stuff happens. But yeah, it's just gonna be us three. Jero would have been here, but he's, only watching two things, so kind of wouldn't, be much for him to say on just those two shows, which are, I think, Keijo and Natsumi is the only he's watching. Which is that, to me, is a weird combo, but, you get a little bit of A, a little bit of B, That's how Jero is. But, so yeah, we're gonna talk about the fall season, shows that we've watched so far. I know it's a little late in the game since there's only like I think 3 weeks for most shows, two for some, or even one for like I know the only show that's ended right now is Haikyuu season 3 that just ended. It's with the only 10
Okay.
episodes, so it's like kind of weird for that. But yeah, so we're gonna talk about
Yeah, that is weird.
just the fall in general. So I'm gonna start with Stella no Maho real quickly. It's so for me, I kind of didn't like it in the beginning. I'm more of a person who prefers like animation, like quality and artwork. That's what draws me to a show. And I started out not really liking it because of that, but my brother, I wanted me to watch more of it because we watched all a new game. And we're like, we watched all that. Let's just give this other new show a shot. And this kind of the same premise. Girl joins a club and they make a video game. Or they're trying to make one. But theirs is more like a, kind of, I guess, like a dating game or whatever we call those games. It's more like one of those games. So she's a newbie artist that isn't really confident in her art skills. I guess that kind of more connected to me towards like my own personal thing, where like 2 or 3 years ago, I'm getting better at drawing here and there, but I always want to get better. And even throughout the whole series, she meets someone else, the main girl, that someone's better than her, and I'm like, that's kind of like what I always experience too with art. There's always someone who's a little bit better than you, so you gotta like keep at it and practice. So I guess
Hmm.
as seeing those messages come through, kind of I guess struck me a little bit. I was like, oh, I can give the show another chance. So I stuck with it, and so far it's been pretty fun. What do you think, Scotland? I know you're watching it.
I mean, it's a cute girls doing cute things show by Silver Link, so I'm
Right.
kind of obligated to watch it.
They did
It's just
Ilya, right?
it's huh?
They did Ilya, right? Silverlink, I think.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
they did Ilya.
Gotcha.
They've done lots of stuff. I've spoken about that in my posts
Mhm.
on Brave Witches that I'm a bit concerned about that studio spreading them out themselves a little bit too thin, because I've noticed like you have animation quality seems to have gone a little bit by the wayside, because they've done two shows per season almost every single season for 2 years.
Mhm.
And it kind of shows in some ways. Brave Witches is really rough around the edges, and they don't do a very good job of blending in the CGI or anything along those lines with the traditional animation. But Stella no Maho is one of the things to where, damn, they made up for that in their color department.
Mhm.
Everything is just pops and is lovely. Those brightish pastel colors, and the character design is of course really lovely, which is what you want from that sort
Mhm.
of show. But what I like about all those sorts of shows is like what I love about all those sorts of shows is that you've got five different characteristics. They're all looking at the same thing. They're all seeing different things, and they're all striving to see the same thing as much closely as they possibly can. So that is at its essence. I mean, K-On! Is like that.
Mhm.
Any kind of almost. I mean, you name the cute girls doing cute things shows. That's kind of what its underlying theme always is, and it's what
Right.
I always enjoy watching about it. So this is another example of those, and another pretty good example, even though it doesn't necessarily really stand out a whole lot. There's nothing exceptional about it.
Right. Compared to like New Game, I recommend New Game over that over
Yeah,
this any
yeah.
day, because New Game is different because it's more about like working girls. They're actually
I would,
not
if
just
someone
high
said,
school.
"Should I watch Fate Stay Night or New Game?" I would say, "Watch New Game."
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, come on, let's be realistic here.
Well, that and this was still in Ohio. Like, some of the actors get to be a little a bit crazier than usual, like Aria Ozara. She's usually more the cute girl,
Mm-hmm.
but now she gets to be kind of like the tomboy, kind of because she has like her character has two personalities. She has
Yep.
like her school persona, which is this girl who's into BL and all this typical
Mm-hmm.
anime type of character, and then the other side is the girl that's thinks she's all full of herself and I'm this great writer, which she is in that world. She's a famous writer, so it's just funny seeing that difference of character when she gets to play on that role. But yeah, again, I get new game a little bit better, but Mahou has some staying points in some parts. Something different, kind of sort of girlish number, which I was kind of the same as still in the Mahou. I kind of didn't like it in the beginning. I was like 4 episodes in, I'm like, this is not my thing. But then I just kept with it, and to my surprise, it actually got a little better. There's episodes that kind of focused on other characters that I liked more than the main
Yeah.
girl because
Yeah.
she's typical, but like she's only in it because she wants to be famous as
Yeah.
a voice actor. I'm like, that's not really. I mean, I imagine there are some voice actors out there that do it just for that kind of fame, but it's like I don't know how realistic that is towards the Japanese audience.
She's callow youth when you get down to it. Chitose or egg as I call her.
Right.
She's just unassailable. She only hears and kind of selectively hears what could be construed as good bits about herself and her talent. She has a modicum of talent, and she assumes that's about as far as it'll take you. But the thing about it is the other characters are missing something essential about her point, is that she'll submit herself to anything.
Mm-hmm.
She'll go do the job. She'll show
Right.
up and go do the job. She may not like it, but she'll stick with the job too. And she'll accentuate whatever positive parts about that job. And other people
Right.
look at that and they'll go, wait a second. This is a crap anime we're making.
Oh yeah.
This girl, she's always going to have work.
Right.
She may not be in the best shows, but anime is making some good stuff and some bad stuff. It don't matter. She's always going to have. I recommend this part for this crappy anime that your studio is making. Great, send her along, and she'll
Right.
do it. And
Right,
she'll be
they-
happy to do it.
They even have the episode where they had this photo shoot where they're all wearing swimsuits, and they brought out these like basically strings for the girls to wear.
Yeah.
And she's just like, no problem at all. She would have done it in a
Yeah.
heartbeat, but one of the
Well,
other
she was
girls
more
like,
willing to
no,
do
I'm
than the other four were.
not. Right? Yeah. She was like, well, this is part of the job. I'm willing
Especially
to
the-
accept it,
no,
but
he
it's
was
like,
like,
yeah.
And she contrasts well with the younger girl, the blonde, the 15-year-old, the one that has parents that have been in the business forever. She takes a lot of things for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they explored with her character later on, in how, she was just beginning to see that. It's like, wow, the path before me has been a whole lot easier than it has for a whole lot of other people. And I've been able to do something that someone like Chitose or the rest of them can't do.
Right.
I've had the luxury of being able to pick my jobs.
Yeah, I thought that episode was interesting where they visit Shimabasa, whatever her name is. They visit the Blue Hair Girl's parents who aren't really into the job idea of her being a voice actor. They're kind of like, no, you shouldn't do it.
You have more experience than we do. What part of Japan are they from? If they have, no, you're not watching the show, so you don't know. I mean, they had the most hick accent they could possibly do in the subtitles. Oh my goodness! I mean,
Was it like laid back or is it like mountain-esque?
mountain-esque,
it's
laid
mountain,
back
yeah.
kind of thing,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, two of the girls actually have accents. You
Yeah.
have the other oldest actor. She was kind of it was only when they get a little drunk they start speaking in their
yeah.
they let things slip out in their
Usually, I would probably say like usually the people who like have the really like hick accents are usually the people they call like in the Kantai region, which are like the middle like south end half of Japan, like not as far south as I am, which has its own laid back accent as it is. Usually it's either there or they're from like the upper north end, like near Hokkaido, but a little bit south of that. So one of those probably.
Right. But yeah, I like the episode where she has visited her parents and her dad was like marathoning her anime. That was pretty funny. I was like, that's pretty nice because she didn't really, have much. She didn't really have much to say about her dad, and her dad was kind of like thinking she could do a better job somewhere else. But I guess he kind of like,
He's one of those very demonstrable sort of guys. I mean, he's the guy that quietly works in the background, makes everything happen in life for people. Doesn't really say much about it, but because he knows that things have got to get done. So he expects his daughter to kind of be the same in that respect. So I don't think he had. I just don't think he had like the skill set to be able to appreciate what his daughter was interested in and doing at that point.
Right.
But figured that I did a pretty good job raising her anyway. She's not going to screw up. She's not going to become a drug addict in Tokyo or anything like that.
Right.
I've done a good job raising her.
I mean, the only issue they had was like her posing in a swimsuit article. They're like, that's the whole big thing there. Constantly bringing it up. I'm like, and she was just trying to tell him it's part of the job, but.
I think they're doing a good job on that, kind of like they did with the Wake Up Girls a couple of years back, to where they showed that level of discomfort that is for women when you get right down to it. And it's like, I grin and bear it, got to do the job, but at the same time, they don't take the camera away from it. They give it to you that these people are uncomfortable, and they give it to you in this show that these people aren't exactly what you expect them to be. They're abrasive. They're difficult to get along with.
Especially when you get down to the one of the producers. Kuzu, the blonde guy, who is straight up the worst character of the series. But I know you gotta have that.
Back in the 80s and 90s, it was called the Peter Principle, where you rise to the level of your own incompetence, where the most incompetent person will be like the one put in charge of everything because they talk a good talk.
He does know how to blow smoke up, people's butts to get them get on their good side. He's all about spending money of the company's money to go on vacation. And I thought it was funny when the girls go back to her parents' house. They own like this spa, hot spring, and he's just like, "Yeah, let's go. It's important. Like you're going because you want a vacation. Like you know what you're doing." And I thought it was funny. The other two producers, other assistants, were kind of giving him a lot of hell. And like I think episode 10, they're just talking about how he sucks. I thought that was funny. And every time they got close to saying he sucks, they stopped. So I guess maybe they kind of respect him a little bit, but not really. I know they got to show some professionalism, I guess. Yeah, that's what they're doing. But it also reminded me of Shirabako's blonde character, who's also blonde and also a jerk, and no one likes him. I'm like, why is it that blonde people in the...
It's the whole delinquent thing.
Right.
It's the whole delinquint thing. Why did you paint your naturally occurring dark hair?
Right, yeah. But yeah, Gareth's Nerve is interesting. I felt bad for the main girl's brother after she kind of shut him down, saying... But I guess he was an actor back in the day. He had one hit anime and then quit, and she made a comment to him at the end of that episode. It was like, "Yeah, you only had one hit. What are you doing now?" And I was like, "Dang, you're a mean character, but that's the next level meanness right there.
Yeah,
that's kind of he's just trying to help her, and she's just like shot him down. I'm like,
I think it's good because it exposes different attitudes and how different people deal with success when you get right down to it. Because I get the feeling that he probably enjoyed working with the people more than he enjoyed doing the work itself.
Right.
He enjoyed making the contacts and talking to people and getting the job done rather than actually getting in front of the mic and doing things like that. Right. And so he has his own nervous quality to deal with because now he feels, oh my God, I have this high level of success straight out the gate. People are going to expect that from me all the time now. Crap, I don't want to deal with that.
Right.
And he took the best thing he possibly could, which, when you get right down to it, facilitating the business ain't bad. He's going to have work.
Right, yeah, and he just got a new person he has to watch over, so he's producing someone else now, which is, kind of put a rift between the siblings, which, I don't know, no, they just don't feel like siblings to me. This, again, he's her manager, and she's the girl that just thinks she's all that in a bag of chips, and she's not very good at her job, and now she's fearing she's going to be losing her spot, which I think is going to happen because just given the nature of that character. She's not really going to learn. I think it's only 2 episodes left, so it's like they got to do something really drastic to make her suddenly get good out of nowhere.
Yeah.
They can do a time jump, but yeah.
I think that's the thing with her. I think she's flash in the pan. I don't think she's going to be almost as good as people think she is. And they're going to make a big deal out of her, and nothing's going to come from it.
Right, because they're not the studio she's working for. They're not really interested in her voice work. They're interested in because she's cute, and she can become a good poster girl for their studio. That's the only reason why I think they want her around. That and the main producer's not very bright. He's just he's pretty stupid when it comes to he's just like, just do this. Or he told her last episode, you're gonna do this. He kept telling her yes. She kept saying no, and eventually her no's turned to okay, I'll do it. Like it's just I thought that was funny. But yeah, I think the last thing I mentioned this show, I'm like, it's funny that the girls they wear the same outfit every single episode.
Yeah.
I'm like, is this taking place in the same day? But because I'm like, even like still on the Mahou, given the low quality animation, even they have different outfits.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's kind of sad when that show can afford it, but this show has a higher budget, I think.
Yeah. Well,
really,
it has
you know.
it has a better use of its budget.
But yeah, I thought that was fun. I was just thinking to my brother, I'm like, imagine if this takes place all in one day. Yeah, like they haven't slept. And they produced the anime like.
It could be like one of those 90s TV shows where it's like everybody wore the exact same outfit every single day.
Or very nearly.
But yeah, I think the last thing to say, if again, just like the other show, I'd rather watch Shirobako over Girlish Number, even though Girlish Number has its comedic moments and a few characters I like. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't think it's a accurate, thing for the voice actor thing, but maybe like a little bit half and half. I could imagine there are some producers that are just scumbags who don't really care about their actors. They're just like, oh, you look cute. That's all you want. But yeah. So let's jump to Yuri on Ice. That's next, which I'll let Irene start this one, but it just, yeah, you can go ahead. I like it so far. But I want to hear your thoughts.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see, Yuri on Ice. I feel like I'm cheating a little bit because I've only watched like the first third or fourth of it, and I kind of haven't been able to catch up. But I really did enjoy what I have seen. It's a really interesting series, which features a sport that most people. I find ice skating and figure skating pretty, but I've never actually taken the time to really watch it because every time I try to watch it, like in real life, it always ends up being very boring to me. It's like one of those TV series, like not TV series, but like the sports that you see at the end of a lazy Saturday, and it's on, and you just sit there like, it's kind of boring, but it's pretty, but it's boring, and I don't know. It reminds me a little bit of ballet, not crashing on ballet, but I like ballet. But it's something you have to be really into, and it's something about the way that Yuri on Ice is able to show it, where you have such beautiful movements of these animated characters that bring it to life, and it also seems to have like an element of being a not a shonen series, but I guess a sports anime is,
Oh, yeah,
I guess,
definitely.
the best definition of it. Yeah, sports anime where it's like, okay, you have this guy named Yuri, who's like the saddest little guy ever, and he's and I like that they made him an adult. He's not a
Me too,
kid
me too.
or a teenager who's in high school, and he's just working to become this greatest, skater ever. He's already been in skating. He's already been in that world. He's already been in college. So he's an adult, and it's actually interesting. He lives. His home is in Kyushu, which is where I am.
Hey.
So I'm actually kind of familiar, though the place where he lives is actually not a real place.
Oh, is it based on anything?
It's supposedly based on the Saga Prefecture, which is the prefecture next to mine, which is like on the west side of the island. But Kyushu's full of like hot springs and everything like that, so that's pretty much where they based everything on. But it's also a very laid back island compared to the rest of Japan. So everything in the show also kind of shows that as it's being very laid back. Nobody's like, how you have that sort of Japanese stereotype you see a lot in the other shows where everybody's like, oh, you must be honorable and perfect, and you have to go and be the best in everything. It's a lot more laid back down here, but just seeing that sort of in the show was kind of cool. Seeing the same sort of architecture and everything, and it's. I like Yuri. I like him a lot. I did feel like eventually he kind of got a little on my nerves with his continuous self-doubt in himself. And and that he has such low self-esteem, which I find interesting considering he's gotten so far in his sport despite having such low self-esteem, which is not something you usually would see with a person who's doing athletics and has been competing for some time. But it was interesting to see that, and how Victor, who's this interesting yet little, a lot stereotypical Russian character, was like, yeah, he's even less Russian, but more Western character, who's, a fly by night. I do whatever I want to do, but I do anything on a whim, but yet has a really deep side to him, and he understands a lot of what Yuri is going through. And I like the fact that he's not, when you first see him, he's very, happy-go-lucky, whatever, que sera sort of guy, like whatever will be, I don't care. But then when he's training Yuri, it's like, oh, I know exactly what you need to do, and I'm going to be an actual coach. I'm not just going to let you do whatever you want to do. You got to train. You have to get all that fat off. I might be nice about it, but I'm going to be stern, and I'm going to actually be a real coach, which actually kind of surprised me for his character. That he was, when it came to skating, he was serious, which I enjoyed that part of him. As for the other Yuri, Yurio, as they keep wanting to call him,
Yes.
which I find really weird. I'm like, you could just call them both Yuri. It's not hard. But,
Yeah.
I mean, they're both Yuri. I have met like a billion Yuseis here, so it's like, come on. You could call him Yuri.
A billion? A billion? A nation of 65
I have at least 3 students named Yusei. But yeah, it's like I'm guessing maybe later on in the episodes, maybe I haven't seen yet, that his role becomes a little bit more apparent. Yeah. But I thought they kind of made him a little like drop off, like I guess they used to call it what they call putting him on a bus, because it's like he's there.
They put him on a bus back to Russia, literally. And that is what he's been doing, more or less. He's fuming because Victor was the person he looked up to the most. That was the standard. And since they both shared the same coach, there's a lot of crap running downhill as far as the coach's newfound grouchiness that Victor basically more or less affected and became a coach in his own right. It's almost as if their mutual coach has had to tolerate this kind of eventual flight, what he perceives as eventual flightiness that Victor is going to be exhibiting.
Right.
So,
his original coach, Victor's coach. Yeah, he wasn't very happy about the whole thing at all either.
He's very solid.
Yeah.
He's the kind of guy that I mean, whether or not that, I mean, you see that Victor emphasizes the basics. These are the basics. You have to be able to clear this hurdle before you can play around. You have to be able to do this before you can be able to do this, and that comes from that stodgy Russian guy. I know that as much as I know I breathe air. That's how that works out, because that's how these things get passed along. It's just that Victor's a bit more personable about it.
Yeah.
So
I know what's happened since I've watched it, because it's been everywhere. But I'm wondering how it's going to end, sort of, with Yuri and Victor and Yuri too, with this whole competition. I know what's gonna happen with Yuri 1, and his story is basically cut and paste, same story kind of you get in almost all sports anime or sports series in general.
Is it? I think they have.
I don't know.
I think they have enough of a backdoor in there for him to be satisfied that he took it as far as he could go without winning gold.
That's still the same story, though. That's instead of going, That's
I don't know
Rocky instead of going the other way.
I don't know from sports anime. I don't know from. I'm assuming most sports anime means they win despite everything.
Well,
You know?
I mean, there's some.
You have two types.
There's some exceptions.
Oh,
to that.
go ahead.
No, I mean with Haikyuu, that especially they had 3 seasons. You would think they'd just be dominating every team. No, they get shut down pretty easily by a bunch of these teams. Even though most of them are practice matches, like the last season, they're like it's like 5 rounds. Each team is basically trading win loss for the whole entire. They keep you on edge the whole entire time until the very end, where it's like 1 point difference between winning and losing. But yeah, some sports anime, like you said, you would think they would win, but most seasons are like, oh, they lost, or like, yeah, we should pedal. I think they lost the first big tournament, so they came back next year and they tried again, got second place this time. And with Yuri on Ice, it's like since it's more of a single thing for the skaters. Yuri's like he's in there still, but he's not like qualifying for medals right now yet. So he's still in there, but it's gonna be a struggle for him, I think. Which is what I think is great about the show. He's just not winning every single time he goes out there. He does lose quite a few times throughout the whole season of the episodes anyway.
Yeah, it's like I said, there's like 2 types of sports series or any actually whether you're Western or Eastern. It's like either you are both of you start really low, but one of them is either you're fighting to get better, and it doesn't matter if you win or lose. It's more so the journey that the person's taking, and that he's got his own hurdle that he's trying to overcome, and then whatever that hurdle is, he's going to overcome that. The other one is like, okay, they're the underdogs and and they have to go and cross that and be the best because everybody else thinks that they're the worst. And that's the other one.
The second one's the more popular. I've seen that. Haikyuu uses that one. They come from a school that has lost tournaments for years. They haven't won one for like decades. And now this new batch of kids come in there, and they're actually in the final tournament. Like it's gonna be broadcast on TV. Like the next step, I guess, from that is Olympics. But so it's like, it's that whole thing. They're beating teams that are like should be dominating them easily, but this new team comes in and is like, oh, we're the underdog, like you said. And a lot of American movies use that too. Rudy and all those movies are the underdog story. The team no one thought would win, comes out of nowhere and wins. That one to me, I don't really like as much.
Americans have a sappy love affair with those kind of underdog stories and all that, Yeah.
I like the other one better, where it's
kind of like the difference between like.
Go ahead.
I would say it's like the difference between like, say, Cars, the first one, which I hate, but still Cars, and or like I said, Rocky, where it's like they lose, but it wasn't the fact that they lost that's important. It's the fact that the journey that they went on, they claimed their own personal hurdle, whatever that was, and versus something like the Mighty Ducks or like Angels in the Outfield, or where it's all about them winning at the end. That's the most important. So it's proving everybody wrong. So it's like 2 different sets that you have, and the same thing here is like, well, Yuri on Ice is different than something like, say, Free, where Yuri on Ice is more about him personally making his own goals and believing that he can do it. It's more so than even winning.
Right, and it's a solo sport versus a team sport. Which a team sport being, you have that camaraderie between all the teammates who don't get along necessarily at the beginning, but then at the end they're all friends. With Yuri on Ice, it's more of, since he's competing against all these people, which is what they're doing now, he's competing against several different people from different countries. There's at least, I think, 6 or 7, maybe 8 people that he's competing against, so he has to compete against those people, and also, like you said, he's competing against himself to get over himself, get back into it. And I think I like the episode 1 where he mentioned, because he was skating, and the girl was watching him, and she's just like, "What happened to you?" He's like, "You got tired of being depressed." And I like that. That was pretty good thing to say, because like a lot of people they get depressed and they get into a rut. It takes a lot to get him out of it. So it's like he's just like, I was bored being that way, so he got back into the sport, which is different. I've never seen that in any sports anime, where like you said, a character who has experience in this sport is now back trying to get back into it. A lot of sports anime do the cliche thing where this kid has no athletic skill at all, and now he's in this team. Those stories I don't really care too much for.
He's a natural.
Yeah, he like Yamamoto, but being about this otaku kid who has no interest in biking at all, but since he bikes, from his house to the anime store, it gives him the kind of the gateway to that I guess sport, which is, and he's like this nerd. He's not very athletic, and he's like the best player on the team now. I'm like, that's a little. I don't believe that very much, you know. But as Yuri as Ice goes, I can believe that story a little bit better, where someone who's has struggled to get better at the sport and he comes back and he's better at it. Like I can believe that a little bit more than the other ones. But yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, so I kind of also like you have these two Yuris who kind of interacted a little bit. I'm not sure if they re-interact later on after he leaves and goes and does whatever he has to do.
Little bit.
But okay. So I was like, I don't know if he comes back. He just leaves. But it's interesting actually to see, like when they were first introduced and they first met, like back in episode 1, it was like, really, you just burst into this poor guy's bathroom stall and yelled at him. I'm like, why?
Yeah, because he has the same name as you. that's the
like,
whole point on the whole thing.
It's like, yeah, they have the same name, but I'm sure there's a billion Yuris out there. Are you really that bad? Yuri is like a really popular name in Russia.
I was gonna say, but it's a common name in Russia.
Yes,
It's probably everywhere. It's
also a fairly common word structure in Japanese as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like Yuri. Everyone's named Yuri. Like even if you cut their names down, which a lot of people do here, they cut their names, to like one syllable. So yeah, even if your name was much longer, it might still be Yuri. So it's like, come on. But I like the sort of juxtaposition they have between the two characters and how they capture the sort of East versus West sort of mentality, which I thought was very interesting. How you have Yuri, Japanese Yuri versus like Russian/Western Yuri, and sort of their thought process and what the difference between them was. In terms of one, he's a lot less self-serving. He's more so thinking about what everyone else will see in him and disappointing everyone else, whereas the other one is more interested in whether he disappoints himself and whether he doesn't like his thinking is completely on himself, which is pretty much what most like the whole Western thought process really is compared to the Eastern process, which is more so about everyone else. Right. So it's very interesting to see like why Yuri too has a lot more confidence in himself, because to survive in Russian competitive world, you probably had to have a lot more confidence in yourself and self-confidence,
right. And he's
even survive.
He's one of the younger characters too. He's I think 15, while the other Yuri's like 20 something. So it is interesting to see how the difference is. Whereas like Russian Yuri has been doing the sport. Maybe I don't think obviously not longer, but he's more I guess focused on it than Japanese Yuri, who's just like he's got out of it, now he's back into it because he went through some emotional stuff. Whereas the other Yuri is more like, I couldn't see him getting depressed about his dog dying. He would just be like, well, another day, and get back to work. He seems like that's what he's all about. And he does mention later on episodes, I think 11 or 10, 9 and 10, that just the sport that he does, being so young, and he has to keep his body so fit, it's a lot harder on him because he can't afford to gain any weight because he has to be really, really fit. And like for a 15-year-old, that's gotta be tough for him to be that way.
He's a will-o'-the-wisp.
Right.
Russian Yuri.
Technically, he's at that age. He shouldn't be like retaining much.
Right. And he's just like, because he made a comment later on in the episodes that to do all these spins and jumps and stuff, he has to do like 6 of them in one set, and by the end of that, he's just completely wore out, just because he's just not used to it as much as the other. We are more experienced and older than him, so it's like he has to be he has to do a little harder training than most people, I guess. And he does take ballet, so
just jump. I bet you just jump around, jump like 24, 26 times in a row, just running. And I bet you anything that'd probably wear you out.
And then he had to spin, so he has to keep his his arms in, which takes a lot. It's hard to do, hard to keep that balance and all that. So it is interesting seeing the difference between the type of training they do versus and then when Victor, like you said, when he's not doing skater coach mode, he's goofy, but when he's in coach mode, he's very serious about what everything he's doing. So it's interesting,
Hmm.
and I like how you give them both kind of a routine to do, and they had to both do it. And if they lost, he would coach one the other and not out the other. Was kind of interesting how do you put this little bit of motivation for both of them. But yeah,
I am.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just
I am
yeah. Go ahead.
wondering. Oh,
No, sorry.
go ahead.
No, all I was gonna say is just map up that animation wise, it's easily the most amazing looking show of the season right now, as far
Hmm.
as animation goes. But yeah,
Yeah, it's beautiful animation. The opening first caught me like just
uh-huh.
first watching it was like probably my favorite of the openings of this year. But I am wondering like what is going to happen like towards the end. I don't know why I have this feeling like something will happen with Victor and like by the end, but I haven't seen like the whole middle half, so
Right.
maybe I'm wrong. But that's just
Like
my
a like an overly dramatic reveal.
For me,
yeah,
I could
like,
see it
oh my
being
gosh, he has cancer or something
Yeah,
like that.
I was going to say, like, there's or dramatic time limit.
the only
Either he's dying of a disease,
oh
or he gave himself until he was such and such age, and if he didn't feel like he was at the top of some form or something like that, he'd quit completely and to go do something else. You
yeah.
know,
Well, a lot of characters they do reveal throughout the series. All the people competing really want to beat Victor. That's their main.
yeah.
All their drive is to beat him. And but with his far as like any drama, it's like the only drama that really happened in his life up to this point was like his dog ate some meat buns, and he had to rush him to the vet. So he had to leave Japanese Yuri from the tournament, go home because his dog got sick. But I see it more like maybe after Yuri gets to a good place where he can do this on his own, Victor would probably quit being his coach and go back into competing, and these two can kind of compete against each other. 'Cause that's what I think Yuri wants to do, and everyone wants to do. Basically, they want to compete against Victor. That's like the ultimate goal for all these characters. So I can see that being the ending. Maybe Yuri gets to qualifying for the next round. Victor's like, okay, well now you're on your own. I'm gonna go back to my sport, and see you in the ring basically. We're gonna compete against each other. I can see that being the ending for this, or hooking up to another season. Probably is what
I
they're gonna
mean,
do.
the only reason I say that is because they do mention like earlier that he's almost retirement
Right? Yeah,
age,
yeah.
even though he's
Yeah.
He
20s.
is the oldest.
Well, they're going to have another season of this show.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean,
Really?
they gave they found themselves. Oh wow, we have a license to print money now, because it's going to make a lot of money. I mean, in the aftermarket, it's going to make some cash.
Either that or a
I
movie.
guess
I
that.
can see it being a movie.
A movie is probably even more so, because that would get more people in a more concentrated period of time to be able to do it. That, and like you pointed out earlier with Your Name and all that sort of stuff. Movies are pretty hot. Anime movies are pretty hot in Japan right now.
Hmm.
So
Right.
Yeah.
they would probably continue in the movie, which would probably just blow everyone's socks wide open.
But like back to
Those-
Yeah.
to Irene's point, yeah, I can see it being maybe something like that. Maybe he does have some kind of thing that he's gonna go through too soon, and maybe want to experience a new side of life before giving up completely before walking away from the sport. So
I mean,
maybe like
the only
being a
reason I
coach
say
would
that,
be that way.
I mean, is because one, like they said, he's near retirement age, and
Right.
two, because he seems to be one of those characters that will pass off the torch kind of
Yeah,
characters,
yeah.
and also, the, okay, so there's these yaoi overtones that are in here, the BL
Oh yeah,
overtones that are in
definitely.
here. And the only problem with that is most of the time, most of those kind of stories, especially the bigger ones that
Uh-huh.
are out, usually either end in some sort of like vague sort of thing between the two,
Right.
or something is going to happen to one of the members and they're going to die.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's usually what happens in that sort of story. So I'm like, like once that happened, I was like, okay, he's going to die. He's going to have some sort of disease. He's going to fall or break his leg or something is going to happen to him. And basically they're going to have a limited amount of time together or something like that. I don't know. That's just usually how this story goes. So that's just why I was like, something might happen to him.
Yeah. I kind of like your idea of him passing the torch, maybe just giving it to someone else since like he's at the age. But everyone keeps kind of bringing it up to him every time they run into him that I'm gonna beat you in the next tournament, blah blah blah. So it's like I can see him maybe doing one more year of skating, but yeah, he could see quitting because of other things. But yeah, and especially like you said, the yaoi BL stuff on there. Yeah, it's very hard not to see that in the show. I mean, most people consider ice skating to be a little kind of a frou-frou sport because these guys wearing these sparkly outfits and all this stuff. So at least that's over here they don't really care too much for it. But yeah, I mean, I could see him quitting, like you said, retiring just completely, maybe just sticking to being coach. That's it, or maybe walking away from the sport completely. Yeah, I could see him doing that as well. But yeah, I'm interested to see how they're gonna end this. I'm hoping they don't end it where it's like, oh, gotta wait till next year for the final tournament or whatever they're in, because Haikyuu did that where they're mid tournament, they stopped it and they came back a year later and brought it back again, and they're still in the same tournament. So going against the same team for this last season was that whole thing. But yeah, Yuri and Ice is a big surprise. I didn't think I would like it as much as I do. Usually sports anime is a little harder for me to get into, but this one is not that bad.
I mean, maybe it's because I don't watch a lot of sports anime, so I can't recognize it as such. But I do not to me, it's just a drama with comedy bits.
There are certain drama bits, but most of the drama is kind of like pushed to the back when they get into like these tournaments and stuff. But they still go through it. I mean, there was an episode before Yuri goes on the skate is in the tournament, whatever. Where now he was going through a lot of crap emotionally.
Sports anime is kind of like, in a way, it's kind of like it's the weird cousin of war films, because if you have a World War II film, unless it takes place in an alternate world, like say, Inglourious Bastards, you kind of know how World War II is going to end in any theater of war.
Right. I mean.
In sports anime, it's kind of like there's a foregone conclusion, but you just don't know how they're going to get there yet. The script has already decided who wins and in what way they win, which is unlike sports. You don't know who's going to win. It's unlike an election. You don't know who's going to win until all the votes are counted and all that. So it's always kind of weird thinking about sports shows in that respect, because they've got to preserve that thing like, even we don't know what's going to come next.
I mean,
even down to it.
Even like a Marvel movie, the same thing. Captain America's gonna save the day. It's gonna happen. But I think it's watching it and seeing how it goes through. With Yuri and Ice, I kind of would think they're gonna go for the whole. He's not gonna get gold. He's gonna get maybe bronze. He's gonna barely get there. He's not gonna go all be top dog, because as far as other characters go in the series, he's the weakest mentally. Everyone else is kind of like other things.
It's like a DC film. Batman never smiles.
Right. Exactly. You know something. That's gonna happen. Exactly.
Batman is always gonna frown at something.
So any last things about Yuri and Ice? I think we covered most of it.
Yeah.
I think more people should watch it. And the last thing I would mention, I think. This is a post on Anime News Network about it. South Park had a thing where one of the characters was doing. He was on the internet and they did a browser history. He actually searched Yuri on Ice on there. It was pretty funny.
And some yaoi too.
Yeah, yaoi. So it's in his backlog of things he's been looking at. So it is funny seeing that. Yeah, even though South Park's this crude and show that no one really likes, it is funny seeing that even they recognize, Yuri on Ice is somewhat popular. Even they know Google.
They recognize that there are tropes attached to the fandom and the people who are watching it right now. Because when it came out, after the first 2 episodes, I put it on my Facebook and I said, "Ladies, I'm pointing you to the Crunchyroll feed. This is probably well worth you at least getting a trial subscription to Crunchyroll, because you're probably you're going to wet some article of clothing at some given point on this,
There are some characters who do appeal more to the girls out there. It is funny that I forget what country he represents, but he may be from Canada or something. But he was definitely very full into himself.
That's JJ.
JJ, yeah, but there's another character who has kind of blonde and brown hair.
Oh, I can't remember his name now, but he's Swiss.
Yeah, he was skating, and he's just basically basically getting aroused as he was skating, and all the girls in the audience could see that obviously,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just like, oh, they're just like melting over there. That was funny.
I'm skating for you.
And he's directing it all towards Victor more than anything, which was pretty funny. But yeah, so
And the other guy directing it at his erstwhile girlfriend
right,
or
the Zoolander guy, I called him.
it was NTR in the stands basically.
He looks like the main guy from Zoolander. His outfit. he had the same. I think that's what they were going for.
Same stupid pout.
I think even the makeup was the same.
Yeah.
The blue on the blush all over his eyes and all that stuff. But yeah, Yuri on Ice is a trip. Definitely a weird show, but yeah, I like it so far.
I love it. It's a good show to look forward to.
Next, jump to something completely different. Well, I guess maybe it is a little bit Yuri inspired. I guess some of the characters anyway. I call this ping pong girls. I don't know how to say the full name.
Burning ping pong girls.
But yeah, this one kind of almost the same as Stella and Mahou. The animation is not that great, but animation budget is spent more in the ping pong matches. That's where all the budget goes. And I would say easily some of the best animation I've seen as far as like sports and girls doing cute things anime. This one has surprisingly high budget for the action scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect that.
And well thought out and well choreographed too, because I don't find ping pong table tennis to be not even remotely interesting. It takes anime to get my attention on it, and it takes cute girls doing cute things, because there was an anime out there called Ping Pong a couple of years ago, which I took one look at and went, no, not even with someone else's eyeballs.
Right, that one's more like that's extreme sketch artwork where it's
that was just Sakuga mixed with masturbation. It was unwatchable to me. I mean, I understood that there was a central theme to it, but I was like, wow, you really are in love with effects, aren't you? That's amazing.
Right. And the Ping Pong Girls one is, like I said, it's very surprising when they get into the actual matches. Even the 2-on-2 stuff, and the ball's flying around, it catches fire, and that's kind of what I like in sports anime. They do exaggerate the effects.
Well,
I like Ice Shield was like that way for me for his football. So when they would run with the ball, it's like he catches fire, runs through them all. That's what I like.
What's interesting about the character design and the way they present it in this show is they're not in any way, shape, or form interested in showing these petite, sort of cutesy girls in the best light. These girls sweat. They're not afraid to show. These girls got hips. I mean, they're 13 and 14-year-old girls. They're developing, so they're getting some cushion in there that a lot of people might go, you got big fat hips or something like that. They're athletic. They're not afraid to show that. They're not afraid to show that that's powerful. That's amazing too. And these girls are awesome for that. So that's I mean they show that you right in the OP.
Definitely.
Right from that point, which is a great song. I love that song. Is very addicting and very hummable in a lot of respects. But I think I like it for its pacing. It's very even paced. They are able to make things very tense, and they're able to build things up. And the only drawback to it is that, my God, it's just like it's another one of those shows to where like every opponent has some sort of quirk.
Yeah.
I'm a Chunibyo, and I have a weird glowing contact lens.
Well,
this one character has.
Saki was like that for its mahjong.
Yeah.
So Saki's like that too, where you have characters that are like quirky, like you said. One that has the eye that they can predict the next move someone's gonna make.
Yep.
Yeah. In this show, it's that way, but these characters don't actually have powers, which is a welcome refreshment. I was like, I don't want them to have like.
That's the other sports anime that we'll be getting to here in a little bit.
That's true. But the last episode they had that girl Kukuri, where she was easily one of my favorites. She's this girl that she is playing basically to tell you she's gonna kill you, but in a way that she's like, I'm gonna beat you to death, and everything's death related to her. She was easily one of my favorites, just because she was just this crazy character, and she has this. And again, think back to the sports aspect, the exaggeration of the playing. When she hits the ball, it curves dramatically to the right, real fast, before hitting the other side. And I'm like, that's not
like it's a rocket going into orbit, for crying out loud.
Yeah. I mean, those parts are a little weird, but I'll give it, given it's anime, they gotta make it interesting. and they do make interesting, giving all
They do. They
visual
do.
effects
It's a real
and
fun.
everything.
It's a real fun show to watch that doesn't take itself too seriously, but at
Right,
the same time is very interested in what it has to say.
right, and
Hmm.
just some of the girls are interesting. I mean, you have the stereotypical, girls got big boobs. You got the quiet girl. You got the one that doesn't open her eyes. And when she opens her eyes, things are gonna happen. It's,
Yeah.
it's always that way with certain anime characters,
And the
especially her.
blue haired girl who literally is cold because she's always breathing cold air,
Right,
and
and
you can't because the collar is always popped up.
right, you never see her mouth, so it's like it's probably an easy character to animate. You don't have to show her talking yet ever. It's like here she is, just do a voice line.
You have to, you have to animate the cold breath coming out of her when you
Right,
get right
that's
down.
true. That's true.
It's
But yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to say more about the show. It's interesting.
just quirky. It's
It's
quirky
fun,
and
yeah.
fun. If
If
you
you-
haven't watched it, then go watch a couple of episodes and give it another
Right.
shot.
I mean, most people I think wrote off, oh, it's fan service. Like, not really.
No,
I mean, there are some
no,
moments where
not
it
at
is,
all.
but like you said, they're just more showing off the athletic side of these characters than they're not walking fan service like some shows, which
Yeah.
is we'll talk about it later.
Uh,
Well, I guess the next one is I don't know. I think it's the other magical girl. I think she's a shrine maiden.
Sushin Shoujo Matoi.
Right. I think
Matoi
you're blogging
Slayer.
it for us on Medinor.
Sacred Slayer. I blogged it for 3 episodes. People commented on it the first one, and the second and the third one. No one commented on it, and it got practically no hits.
Rest in peace.
I mean, I think even 2 months later, the second and the third episode have got like 300 hits to it, and I'm used to getting 500 to 600, and some of mine usually have 1,000 to 2,000 this late into the season. So practically no one is watching it, and I don't understand why. It's really good. The animation by White Fox is a bit less clean than it was in the 2-core show Re:Zero. But the character design on it is really lovely. It's very, very, very even, nicely done. Good colors, good composition, good camera work, and a fairly solid story with a good thematic presence to it. So I like the fact that it basically more or less is, like a lot of coming of age stories, it's about looking at adults and seeing sometimes a very confusing, very hurtful, very emotional things that they have to do that you as a child don't yet understand. And so, and I like kind of how the way they use the different quantum levels of reality to kind of exemplify that, and to be able to defeat the monster, you have to go to a different quantum level and take it on its turf.
Right, which is a lot like I forgot the anime that came out a couple seasons ago was like that, where they're exorcists and they have to go to the other side just to fight this monster. That was an interesting part of the show. But with that new magical girl one, it's interesting. I like the characters. I like Yuma. She's easily my favorite. I like the episode where she finally gets her powers, and she even goes.
she has the 2 cutest freaking little spirits,
Right.
and I love how creative they are with the power. Because when she tanks up, she's in that teapot, and that's just so freaking awesome. That just to me shows that someone's really in love with the idea of being creative with that sort of character.
Right,
And
for once, it's a character that is actually excited to be a super-powered magical girl.
Wanted it all along.
Most of the time it's like, oh no, I got these
Oh,
powers. Why?
What do I do now?
They get all sad.
I don't want to be super interesting.
Right, but Yuma's just like, nah, I like this. I mean, for me, she's kind of like, it's an odd comparison to Deadpool of this series. She doesn't really care that he has these powers. In fact, she loves it. Even goes to the break the fourth wall in one episode, saying, "This is my opening now. I'm taking over." And she actually does this opening all about her, which to me it's like a Gintama thing where they will do that there to make fun of the opening, break it, and it'll be about something else, and it's about different characters. But Yuma, being an exception, is just excited and doesn't really care about, the other things. But I know Matoi's got her own issues, dead parents and all that, that issue. And her dad, she doesn't really. Her dad's weird. She doesn't really call him dad, but I know why. It's just because she was away for so long.
Yeah.
So it's like they have this weird, relationship. They kind of get along, but he's really protective over her. But it's typical anime thing or typical anything. They tell you, the cops tell you, don't do this. She's gonna do it anyway, and that's just how it always is. And he does catch her at one time at a scene of one of the crimes. He's just like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Can you figure it out? Like, The newspaper articles are talking about this magical girl with red hair. Like, come on, figure it out. But that's just how the anime goes. I mean, and then you bring in Clarice, who's the girl from, I guess, from the church. I guess what they are. And I'm always like, yeah, that group's probably evil. That's how it always is in anime. That's just, the church is always evil.
They're always ironclad.
Oh.
Yes.
They're always
They just
ironclad. The Western Church is always Catholic.
Uh-huh. And it is what it is, yeah.
It's always very, very, very rigid and ironclad with nuns.
Right, and
And
she does have
that is
Wow.
that is always the way
yeah,
that it
Clarice
is in
does
anime.
have that kind of persona about her, too, that she's
Mhm.
been raised in the strict world, and she has to do this and do that, and she's been given this mission to defeat all the demons. That's all she lives for. But when she meets Matoy and Yuma, I think it's fun to watch the interaction, how they're kind of bringing her out of that world a little bit.
And she is bringing them and taking their duty seriously when you get right down.
So yeah,
'cause
she's
they look-
helping them, and she's helping her. So I like that kind of, group they got going so far.
I mean, like I said, thematically, the show is about taking on different perspectives other than adhering to your own.
The only weird part of this I didn't like was, I think, episode 1, when she transforms, her dad jumps on her and grabs her boobs. And it's
God,
just like,
I
was like, oh man, this is gonna be weird.
I can typically explain away things like that, but even me, I'm kind of like, yeah, you're on your own, and then I just ignore it.
I'm thankful that's not a thing in the series. They stopped doing that after episode 1. I'm glad.
Yeah.
But the other thing weird, anytime she loses her powers or turns them off, she's naked. So it's like, that's a little weird, but I'm like, it's like Sailor Moon, she does the same thing, she transforms, but they obviously edit back where she gets her clothes back. But as far as Matoi goes, she doesn't have that luxury, so...
I remember the first woman I dated seriously.
Like, oh, no.
We would reflect on what it was like to grow up. Because this is when I was, post-20s and all that. And it was like, what was like going through puberty for a girl? I never got a chance to ask a girl like that because it was too embarrassing for both parties. And, she would always like, oh, my God, it was awkward. Every single day it was like, you felt like you were the clumsiest person in the world because, looking back, your limbs are growing by inches. And it's just like, how did my hands get down there all of a sudden? Why are my arms lengthening out? And, what is going on here? Why are things – I mean, I was looking forward to these things getting bigger, but now I'm not quite so satisfied that they're getting bigger in this particular way. And guys are the same way. We kind of feel like, wow, this is itchy. This is not what I wanted. And, it's it is. I mean, it's just, there's a certain elegance for girls, I think, growing up. But I believe fully in what Irish comedian Dylan Thomas said about guys. Guys are simple. We're born with one hand in our nose, one hand up our dick, and we get taller. That's it. I mean, that's it. Guys aren't complicated at all. Women, however, there's an opera going on. There's the most amazing freaking opera going on, and with guys, it's just
amazing.
It is. From our perspective, it's really freaking amazing. It's like women. Like again, quoting Dylan Thomas, women are amazing. They have these Italian-designed stealth fighter-like arguments. And men, we have these stolid Soviet Union, blasted ugly architecture, solid arguments. It was like, I know that I left a note in the fridge to be able to go shopping again. I absolutely know that. I did that. And the girl says, yeah, I know, but you left the lights on the porch last night. Just this completely just takes everything off the rails and all that. It's just, but yeah, no, girls are opera, guys are thrash metal. It's just,
I feel like that's a compliment. I've never heard that before.
I mean, I call it like I see it. Guys are boring. Guys are dull. It's. I mean, and that's from the guy's perspective. That's from an old man's perspective when you get right down to it. I know politically speaking, there's this weird identity politics thing out there, but for fuck's sake, women are more interesting than most guys will ever even know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we're fortunate to have you, and my God, we must be a tedious bore to deal with half the time.
No, you're cool.
So back to Magical Girls.
Yes, let's go back to Magic.
It is. I mean, that's what this show is about when you get right down to it. It's about how awkward it is to grow up and yet still have joy.
Unless you're human and you just like don't really care and you just want to have fun and save the world.
Yuma's like, I'm going to be this skinny little thing with no boobs and no hips, and I'm just going to have fun with life,
Right, and
That's her thing.
you're right. No, like the last thing to mention in the show is like, do you think her mom is really gone, or think? I think the mom's the final boss. I wouldn't mind seeing that. She got possessed by the top demon, and now she's like a
Her
demon
mom,
now.
if they stick to the theme, her mom is many things. Her mom
Right.
is, because again, going back to boys versus men, when you think about something from an old patriarchal point of view, as a man, you raise a little boy, and you have to sacrifice resources to raise that little boy, to raise that child.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they grow up, they become a competitor for those resources. So really, when you get right down to it, it doesn't pay to raise children in terms of resource management, because they're gonna steal from you one way or the other, And so there's also that point of view for women, because you're raising someone that is going to be a substitute in the exact same way you were a substitute. There's a chain of life going on there, because women grow up to give birth to more children. And if they give birth to girls, the process keeps on going and the species propagates. So if they do this thematically, there's going to have to be the sense that Matoi will take over for her mother, whatever job that is.
But, I mean,
and it's
she's
gonna
kind
be
of doing it
necessary.
now and taking care of her
Yeah.
dad too.
Yeah, I mean, that's the preface, but it's going to be a much larger job, and she's
Right,
going to have to
yeah.
make difficult decisions.
Right.
Where
Yeah, she's got to stick to this saving the world thing for.
where she has
Yeah.
to be kind of a nurturer
Right.
and a destroyer at the same time. How do women have to appreciate that point of view? And I may
Right.
be giving the show more depth than it deserves.
A little bit, but I mean, I see. I know what you're talking about, but with her, I think she's going to have to make the decision of becoming this new protector of the world versus being
because
a high schooler.
the Shinto priests pretty much say that it's a
Right.
repeating. It's
Well,
a repeating
Yeah, the character.
with
Yeah,
with who she is.
I mean, the
Her
character
mother.
they just met is someone who lives at the shrine and all that. So
Yeah.
that's all she's known her life, and that's why it has kind of the combination of she's got to balance her real life, school, and all that, and then balance the saving the world thing as well. Which in most magical girl shows, that's always the thing. That's nothing new for me, at least from what I've seen. But any last thing to say about that one? I mean, I think it's
No.
okay. It's not the best, but it certainly has entertainment. In
I
it, so.
I think it's better than you think it is, but that's a matter of opinion, of course.
Right. I mean, Yuma, I think she's easily the draw for that for me anyway.
For a lot
So
of people,
if it was more about her, I would.
she's
enjoy
meant
it.
to be enjoyed in that very immediate fashion, but Matoi
Right.
has a little bit more depth to that.
Right. And to jump to another magical girl show, then I'm jumping ahead to a magical girl rising project, which for me that's why I'm blogging this season, off and
Mhm.
on here and there. But I'll let Irene talk about a little bit about this if you want. I blog it every week, so kind of curious what you got to say about it.
This is actually one of the three that I am finishing in the series. Of the three that I'm watching this season,
Mhm.
or ended up finishing. I was never one of the people who actually watched or at least finished. Is it Madoka?
Yeah.
Magical Madoka. I watched like the first episode or two, but
Mhm.
little QB thing creeped the crap out of me, so I just never finished it.
I
So-
can imagine, man.
He creeped me out, so I was like, yeah, no, that's okay. And so I never really got like the whole or watched the whole like dark magical girl sort of phenomenon that was that. But I was like, well, this one actually seems kind of interesting. It seems a lot like that one, and I heard a lot about it, and so I started watching it, and it was two things. It was what I expected, and it wasn't what I expected, like by both the same time.
Mhm.
Because you expect it to be this battle royale between these magical girls. Even from the outset, it's going to be a dark magical girl series. And you have your main character, who's of course the idealized female magical girl.
Mhm.
She's never, she's always innocent. She's never mean. She's perfect waifu material and everything like that. And it's like, she's kind of boring. And she's actually probably the most boring character in the series. But it's
Right.
all the characters that are around her that are like really interesting. I never had a really big favorite. I think my favorite girl was probably Hardcore Alice, and
Yes, yes.
what's the other one? Top Speed,
Uh-huh.
Hardcore Alice, and I'm trying to think if there was any other ones I liked. Probably just those two, really.
Yeah, those
The
two,
others
yeah.
are. I mean, I like La Pucella. I like I keep everybody keeps calling her La Pucella, but I think it's like
Yeah,
La Pucella. But
I always screw up her name, or his name technically, because it's a guy. And I think he's more of the ideal magical girl, which is kind of weird.
now
Was.
Yeah, he is. Well, was, but yeah.
he was an interesting character. I really did. I have read the light novel to this, so I know how it ends. But it's like I didn't want him to go,
Yeah,
and it's like
that was
I
I was sad. I was like, oh man, he
It
didn't deserve
was
that.
at that point early on when they started they started fleshing out the character. I was like, okay, you're going to be dead here very soon, aren't
yeah,
you?
I mean,
Because that
oh yeah,
and that seems to be the formula they stuck to.
right. If they talk about a character in the beginning, about their backstory, they're probably gonna die the episode. That's usually how
yeah,
it
like I
goes.
knew he was gonna die. I knew it because, like I said, they actually give extremely blatant death
Mhm.
flags in the series. Every time a character gets a backstory or gets information told about them,
Yes.
you know they're gonna die really, really soon. But I liked his character, and I think his was the first time where I actually realized how not it wasn't actually really shocking because you knew it was going to happen, but like how dark they were going to go with the deaths
Mhm.
in the series, because like the first one was like the sleeping girl Nemarine, and she's like, not, she just kind of died in her sleep, which actually had its own really heartfelt moment when you found out she died and her mother realized she was dead, and it was actually, it wasn't shocking, but yet you really felt it because of the way the mother reacted.
Mhm.
But at the same time, like the second one who died was Ruler, and you never liked
Oh
her,
no,
but
no.
it was like I was trying to feel like, okay, one, how did she die? Because that was like really weird. She was like all of a sudden in blood somewhere, and I was like, oh, okay. But like the first two deaths didn't really hit me as much as Lapucel's death, where it's like not only does she fight this girl who's out of her league and just is kind of
Oh yeah.
bloodthirsty, and she doesn't realize how out of her depth she is
Mhm.
until it's killing her basically, and
Right.
she gets tossed out, and it's really sad that she
That
gets
was the
tossed
sad
out
part.
into the
Yeah.
road
That was the sad part. Yeah,
and
yeah.
gets hit by a truck, and you're like, what,
And then
girl?
you reel back to like learning that it was Fav's idea for that to happen. I was like, yeah, that little creature is pretty
Yeah.
messed up. But
I
yeah,
mean,
that
you
was
knew
pretty
he
brutal. I
was.
mean, and like she makes a comment later on that his body was so mangled they couldn't tell what really happened. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that was another layer of emotional pain. And obviously, being a friend to the main Snow White, yeah, that was also another heartbreak thing where it's like she was just getting friendly with him, and they almost had this romance hit off between them a little bit. And I think episode
Hmm.
3 leading up to that, which was the major death flag for that character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, you're getting too close to the main girl. No, you're done. And they kept making
Well,
comments that she doesn't really fight, but because she has the other guys protecting her all the time, so it's like, yeah, they gotta get rid of her somehow. So they and like
I
you
mean,
said, yeah.
I really like the fact that that the way they did his character, which
Mhm.
is you have this boy who's, I want to say, eighth grade, so he's
Yeah.
like 12 or 13 years old, and he's in basically I think at that it's like junior high, so it's junior high, and he's like all little boys like at that time. He's slowly entering puberty. Like I think Snow White's already in puberty at this point, but he's
Right.
like slowly coming, like joining her in that area, and so
Mhm.
he's like just starting to go from just enjoying friends to actually thinking of girls as something that's interesting. And it's like I like the fact that he likes he likes magical girls, but yet he's not portrayed as sort of like some sort of like fliffy or fluffy gay character who's like,
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
well, I just like girls, like they do stereotypically. And he's a normal boy who just likes girls. I mean, he's just the standard puppy dog tail, like
Right.
mud and bugs and stuff like that,
And
just
the
like
funny,
like
yeah.
all the other boys.
And the funny
But
thing
he
is that
liked,
they designed their characters before they became the magical girl. So obviously he has attraction to little older women probably because
Hmm.
his avatar he
well,
built
With
is
horns and a
I can
tail.
right. Yeah, his avatar he has
that
is
too.
that girl he probably
Stacked.
yeah, exactly, someone that he would
Which
maybe
makes
like. I mean, it
which brings up
fits like a little young kid discovering
well,
that. I mean,
um,
and he actually
Swim
becomes
Swim's
that, so it's
character.
like, whoa, this is a little weird. They even made a comment about that. He was when he first transformed. He was like, yeah, this is not what I
Uh,
expected.
you are built like a brick shithouse, girl. But then again, you go to Swim
Uh
Swim.
huh.
She's younger than the guy that was La Pucelle. So
Right.
what does that say about her? That Swim Sim is also built like a similar
I
shithouse.
mean, she was, yeah. I mean, she also was influenced by Ruler, obviously. But yeah, that character there, she was one of my favorites in the beginning, but now I hate her so much.
Oh, you're
I
supposed to
despise
hate her.
her.
You're supposed to hate her, and the thing about it is now that she's revealed that she's a very distant sort of
Right.
child that's interested in
And
working
has
very hard and
and
being a
has
good
the
girl.
most. I think has the most overpowered ability next to Alice.
Mhm.
Because like you can't really stop Swim that much unless you have
The mo-
someone who can freeze her. But even then, if you break her apart when she's frozen, she's just gonna reform like the freaking Terminator. So I was like, how do you
no one
defeat
ever
her?
thought that Tama
You
could
know?
do anything. And this most recent episode,
Oh
she
yeah.
did what no one could do, and that is blow Cranberry apart.
Yeah,
Who was a monster, who they portrayed
okay.
as a monster. And
I got to actually read that part, like in the 'cause in the light novel they do have all these same stuff. Basically, it's the same events. I think the only
Oh
difference is like how gory certain events get. Like Calamity Mary's death is a whole lot more gory, but
right. Yeah. I guess I
um,
haven't
well,
seen it.
yeah,
Because I haven't
yeah,
seen
you kind of
episode
they build her up
11.
for that.
That's probably why I didn't know that. I
but
haven't seen episode 11 yet, but it's fine. I knew she
Oh,
was
okay,
gonna
I
sorry,
kill
sorry,
her.
like
sorry.
It's fine. It's
I
fine.
like Tama. Like I saw the episode too. I like Tama's interest. Like what she actually does at the end, and is the one to beat Cranberry is like the weirdest thing ever because you're like, this is this super evil girl who beat Lapistelle, who basically was going to
Hmm.
take down Simpson, and she gets beat by Tama. And it actually is not even what Tama was trying to do. She was just trying to protect, Simpson because that's her only friend left, and she just does it on instinct, not even realizing her actual powers of the fact that anything she swipes, no matter where it is or
Hmm.
anywhere it is, it's always going to form a hole. And
Right.
and so she hit, and I love in the like how they have Cranberry's thoughts. She's so calm about it, and she's like,
Hmm.
"Oh, well, there you go. I'm going to die. Whatever."
Right. Well,
Bound to happen.
she had that kind of thing about her too, where you could kind of tell when they first kind of introduced her, and she's kind of this like free spirit, doesn't really care, like she's in it just because it's fun, something to do basically for
Mhm.
her, I think. And it's just her and Fav talking, I think episode 8 or 9, whatever. They had this weird conversation between the two of them that revealed a lot about Fav, maybe more about what he's up to, about because he usually does a stupid little thing where he's bouncing back and forth. He's talking to her, he stops completely. His voice changes,
Mhm.
and he starts talking
Hmm.
about all these things. I'm like, wow, this now, there's something with this little critter that I don't really trust. I mean, of course you're not supposed to trust me at all anyway. At the very beginning, no one likes him, and no one still likes him. But yeah, I mean, the powers of the girls, if they're used in the right way, yeah, they could cause some serious destruction. Like Calamity Mary able to use any weapon in the world, just popping shots at a highway. Because I always had this theory that, because they had to collect candy at the beginning, I always thought, what if the girls use their powers in a different way where they cause the calamity to happen, and they go back and save the people to get candy out of that? Like Calamity Mary, obviously, again, she can shoot up a highway, and then maybe save the people to get candy out of it. I was like thinking that's the one way they could use their powers. But yeah, like using it on each other, like you said, with Swim, I could imagine turning the liquid, getting inside someone's body, and just expanding, and you basically kill them from the inside. So I was like, she could do a lot with her powers, and a lot of the characters can use their powers in certain ways. And
Mhm.
besides the Angel Good Twins, I don't really care for either. When
I wanted to like them, but
Winter Prison killed the other one, I was like, yes, Finally, I was so happy. Just smashed her head against the wall. I'm like, yeah, because I don't really care for those angels because they're just in it, just like Ruler was. They're just in it to be complete jerks to everybody. But
Ruler had
I
ulterior
know,
motive.
but she had power over them. Which is why they're
And
acting the way they were.
she had a chip on her shoulder to prove.
Right. I mean,
because she was a woman that was basically discarded in the business world for being a woman.
She thought everyone was dumb compared to her. So
a lot of people probably are dumb compared to her. But there's a way to handle that, and there's a way to not handle that.
Yeah, right. I mean, Ruler, she had bad parts to her, but she also had some good parts to her, especially as you see her later on with Tama and with other characters, how she has a nice side to her. She just, like you said, she has a chip on her shoulder because of, sadly, how the Japanese business world is, and it's like, she's got this thing, she's a woman, and she's trying to, improve stuff, but she's a little too ambitious for, that sort of setting, I guess you could say. And just makes her angrier and angrier. Like she can't, and she puts that anger out in her magical girl form.
I did like the connection they pulled for her for Nemu, how she was the one that was in the dream that looked up to being a princess and kind of got interested in magical girls because of her. So it was kind of interesting that they brought those characters together. But yeah, as far as like their deaths that well deserved, Mary obviously and her backstory was kind of. Your crappy mom didn't take care of things. So I was like, she died. I was like, whatever. But the tragic deaths are like, top speed, being like, I guess pregnant. I was like, oh, that was pretty sad. I didn't care too much for that character, but yeah, it was sad for her.
I mean, like I know how it goes for the plot of the story, but it's like I wasn't actually sure they were going to actually do that for the series because of how big the whole thing is in Japan about women and pregnancy and everything like that, and they shortage in terms of childbirth, and it's like, are they actually going to kill off a pregnant woman? And that's like something you really don't even do really a lot in even in Western violent TV or anything like that. It's generally leave that alone.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because The Walking Dead had something like similar. There's a character who is pregnant, has a baby, is about to have a baby, and they're in a situation where one of them's going to be killed off. And a lot for the whole, like, while they're on break, everyone kept asking that, are they going to be bold and kill a pregnant woman on a TV show, an American TV show? I was like, nah, they're not. So yeah, like you said, that is a little harder for, I think, any medium, anime or anything, to kill a pregnant woman off. Yeah, it was pretty tragic. I mean, and then you get to, like, later down the line, you get Sister Nana basically hanging herself. And I was like, oh, that's so depressing. Like that's
but it fit her character,
right?
When you get
Given that her lover died, like, so sad.
I mean, her I thought I saw coming, which was like either she's going to do one of two things. She's gonna like crack and become like this ultra vicious, creature who's like insane and just gonna kill everybody. Or she's going to just take, gonna kill herself, and she took the option.
Because with her giving her powers, she can give you like a buff, whatever. But I imagine she could probably curse you too if she was able to go like dark on her powers. Then you have like the silly comical ones like the robot, which I liked because voice actor. I like her a lot, but her death was kind of like, well, you basically did it on a dare, basically.
Yeah, and it was
kill someone. So okay, I'll try it, and he gets owned by Alice, which was funny.
Yeah, but I think her death was kind of there to show you in a way that sometimes the death doesn't carry any meaning to it whatsoever.
Right.
It's kind of to give you a kind of like a smorgasbord of death. Some has a point to it, some doesn't.
Even the girl's lifestyle she lived, she was kind of this girl lives in the streets, did odd jobs for money. So it's like it kind of fits the character, even though it's a little sad to say. It does fit the character that it's not really memorable. She just died because she thought she could get some money out of it, So, and
go
ahead.
Sorry. Well, I'd say I would actually really like to get a lot more on the background of the story, in terms of what the Raising Project is. We got Tama Fav about to kind of explain it to Simpson this last episode, but she kind of shuts him down. We actually don't really get to hear it.
Right.
I'm going to guess that they might expound a little bit more on it last. They've been hinting at it like for the last 3 episodes about what it really is, and that.
Yeah, because I have the theory that he's like this. It's a weird theory, but he's like this promoter for like this magical arena style a Coliseum gladiator thing, where he's picking the best fighters to put them in some like this like, death match, whatever. And so he's like broadcasting that to like all these different people all over like different universes. So they're basically it's like an entertainment thing for them. That's why I was thinking it was going to be like it's just this game a game show basically for them.
Mojo from Marvel Comics.
Right, I was thinking something like that, something along those lines of it's being broadcasted like this battle royale TV series, and the girls are just playing parts in this game. I was like that was the theory I had of my own anyway.
Always in.
Okay, I know like what's going on, like what he's doing and like what the whole project is, but it's the background of who's in charge of the project.
Yeah,
and
I wondered that too.
Like Fav's actual bosses, because they don't actually get in that in like this first, because this whole series is based on one light novel, just the first one,
right?
And there's actually like 2, like I think 4 after this one, that go into the whole background of basically all the ramifications of this series is what affects all the series that comes later on, and like what happened and what Fav and Cranberry were doing is what causes the rest of the series to happen.
Right.
And you really are like, it's that world that I'm interested in. See, they mention it a couple of times. It's called the World of Magic.
Right.
And basically it's this entity or this land that never seen in this entire series, but is there. And it's like this alternate dimension that's there, and it's a world of magic, literally. Like,
right.
It
reminds me a lot of the past Magical Girl series. Yuki Unit was like that, where the girls would go into another parallel world, and that was controlled by gods and all this, and that was a big question too of like, who's the one creating all this, who's creating the system, and even that does that thing where a previous character from an old series crosses over to this series. So yeah, you do have that backstory where it's like there is more story to tell.
It's the old gods from Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
You have to keep them entertained with magical girl shows.
Right, which is what I think they're doing with this one. But yeah, and the last sad death was Alice. I was kind of sad about that one too. I was like, she should have just transformed and she could have regenerated after that. But and then you had Alice kind of like not really caring about it. But near the end, obviously she had to start caring. But yeah, I just feel bad for Alice.
I like Alice.
She was the saddest to me, because it was like you had this girl who was so depressed, and she was thinking of actually committing suicide, and then you have Snow White, who basically comes and helps her at this last moment, and it basically gives her this entire new outlook, and basically she sort of saves her life unknowingly, and she just wants to be this magical girl now, and she ends up becoming one, and you actually never make the connection until they reveal it to you that she's the little girl you see way in the beginning, like first episode.
Yep.
Yep.
And she had these awesome powers, which is like, really, you can live from everything.
Right.
If you're in the proper form.
Yeah. But it's like they actually do something that most series don't do, and that's actually to go and mix the worlds of that, the world that she lives in normally versus the magical guise she wears. Sort of like, basically, Snow, like if you had Sailor Moon and them going and attacking her as her normal self when she's in school or something.
Something I've never seen, like you said, I've never seen them do that. And they actually did that. I was like, wow, that's something I wouldn't see them doing, killing her in her human form. I was like, yeah, that's a pretty smart move. But I'm like, why didn't the angel girl do it? She could have killed her easily, because she was disguised as the doll. It's like you could have done it when she was sleeping, just turned out of the rabbit form and then took her out. Like so make Swim do it. I guess it's like, I guess maybe she wants to kill.
I guess maybe she doesn't like have anything to or any way to kill her. Maybe I don't know. Like she's the one that can only turn into like inanimate objects.
Yeah, objects.
And she's like, well, I could like turn into a rock and smash her,
I mean,
but
it could,
somebody would have
yeah,
to move the rock.
right. I think it requires another person to help her. That's why you have the twins. Why you have the other one who can turn into humanoid forms. So yeah, it makes sense. She can probably turn into like a sword and just falls to the ground. It's like she needs someone else to use her when she's a weapon. I think that's how it works with her. So I guess
Hmm.
that's pretty not a very good power if you don't have a partner to help you. It kind of sucks. Now that I realized
But
it,
it's,
like I could turn
I
into
just
a
feel
knife,
so
but I
sorry
can't
for
stab
her.
her. Oh, or a rock, like
I
you
mean, I
said.
just it, her death was just so sad. It was actually probably to me, it even beat out Top Speed's death a little bit because it was they spent almost half the episode on it, like showing you her
Hmm.
story and then showing you her trying to inspire, Snow White and then getting rejected and then, she's always on her own
Right.
and to suddenly be like confronted by Slim Sim and then she's unable to turn because if she turns then everyone will know who she is and then she lose her powers anyway, which means she dies anyway. So
Hmm.
it's like she has like these very few options and she's basically running for her life and you're just so angry at Swim Sim at this point
Yeah.
and you're like
I mean
you
that whole episode played out kind of like a horror movie to me. She's trying to run from run from this killer, and the killer keeps chasing her no matter where she goes. I was like, damn, this freaking
I'm
Jason over
sorry,
here.
something is deeply wrong with Swim Swim at this point. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, well, I
at
mean,
first you think like
she's in it for the kill count. I think at this point, I think that's what she's
well,
going for.
she's obsessed with Ruler. She's obsessed to be like Ruler. She wants to be like Ruler and to be, not only to be like her but to surpass her. And that's the only thing that's on her mind.
Hmm.
And but the fact that she's such a young child and yet she's completely not like not even emotionally attached in terms
Right?
of
She's just
killing
like
other people.
stab, you're dead. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
she's
come on.
like she does it. I mean, it's not like she's been exposed to a bunch of
No.
killing or she
Or
even knows how to kill,
right,
but
and it's
she
not
just does.
right, and then when she does it, she's not like she's got a grin on her face or anything. She's not like Cranberry, who was the opposite, who killed someone and loved it. Swim Swim's just
Hmm.
like almost going through the motions. Like she just stabs you and is like, oh, I did my job, and and disappears. Like she has no emotional reaction to any of it either. Unless she goes home and writes in her diary, today I killed, today I killed so so.
Well,
Like, oh my
and actually,
god.
she was doing her homework, which was interesting to me. Basically, if OC was here, she would probably classify her in like having a sociopathic sort of
Yeah, I can see that.
mental state because she doesn't care. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just something she does. It's
Right.
it's
She has
something to think about.
no
It's just
reaction to
there.
it. 'Cause, yeah, it's just like her day-to-day life.
She has a sense of
Yeah.
precociousness about her. There's precocious intelligence going on there. And in her daily life at that point, she's probably around maybe, she's later elementary school, most definitely. So she's starting to become more aware of consequences and people's consequences around her. So she's probably distanced herself because of that precocious
Right. I mean,
intelligence.
yeah, there was that one episode when the other angel died. She made a comment
Hmm.
that what would a ruler have done during this situation? So she does
Right.
question herself a little bit, like, did I do the right thing?
Yeah.
And that
So
so
Well,
she
I don't think it's more so
rises.
the right thing. It's more
right,
so
right,
is she at ruler's level
right,
and
exactly.
she's obsessed with being at ruler's level.
Right. Did I do what ruler would have done? You know, kind of like what would she do in this situation? That you want, like you said, she wants to be just like her. But yeah, I mean, so far this series has been fun. I mean, I like it because, like you said, it's different as far as they're doing things that other shows haven't done. Yeah, this does. I do have to get over the fact that these shows will get compared to Madoka till the end of time. But as far as that goes, this one is different in the vein that, like you said, they do see the other life of these characters. So now not all the characters have this perfect life. Not all of them are good people either. Which clearly Fab was told, Calamity Mary, that one episode, that you're just chosen. It doesn't matter who you are. Even guys can become magical girls, which was the big interesting thing about this series. So I was like, it's doing different things. It may be minor things, but still, it is different than Madoka as far as that goes. I mean, I do like the fact that.
I'm actually, oh,
Go ahead.
continue. Well, I was saying I'm actually interested in if this is, or if this would be like the way they chose the girls, if that would be common practice,
Mm-hmm.
or is Five just squidging this as he is the rest of it? Because
Right.
we basically learned from this episode and from last episode that this is not basically this is the project is sort of like a way to find the best magical girl that they can find, like a
Right.
test.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
they originally did not do it at all with any sort of lethal intentions at all. It does
Mhm.
not have. You're not supposed to kill each other. There's no death involved at all. And Five has actually been, tweaking and changing everything to suit his and Cranberry's, idea of, oh, let's have a death match because we like that. And so basically it's
Right.
all them doing this. And so I'm wondering, he picks all these people because, well, like like you said with Calamity Mary, he wants to have friction in the group, and
Right.
that
Yeah.
would be best for their, enjoyment. So I'm wondering like what would be the qualifications that they would pick people originally, like
Right.
what, like
Because even I think Calamity Mary makes a comment when she's shooting the people on the highway that this wouldn't be in the original plan. Like this is not what Fab Fire would have let us do before. So it's like yeah, I'm gonna bet the rules were far stricter, like you're saying. They didn't really pick anybody at random, and I think Fab's not picking anyone random either. He's picking and choosing certain people. Even like La Pucelle and Snow White. He may not know they were friends in real life before, but maybe he kind of does through the app. So it's like there's a lot of things that he's not really talking about how he picks people. But I do like the aspect of that too, that they're not necessarily evil, but they're not necessarily good people either. So I kind of like that how they can mix and match. Because most shows are like, oh, you gotta be pure-hearted and all this to become a magical girl. This one's like, no, anybody can be one. Even a murderous girl like or Connie Mary, who's not really murderous, but someone who's not a good person. Yeah. So I mean, even like a robot. I mean, that to me is just interesting. Just again, just changing things up a little bit. It's not all gloom and doom every episode, but I mean, it does get a little depressing here and there. But because most people are like, it's a death episode. I'm like, not really. It's 2-3 deaths an episode. I think episode 9 had the most with 3. So I was like, So.
Yeah, it started with 1, and then it would like go every other episode 1, and then later on start like having 2, and then
Right.
3, and
Cause I think when
actually I think 1 had like 4.
Top Speed, yeah, when they killed her off, it was Calamity Mary died, Top Speed died, Sister Nana died, like all 3 in the same episode, all died, and I was like, oh jeez. So yeah, I mean, this show, I mean, I like it. It's entertaining. I don't really have any much more to say about it. I mean, I'll talk about it every week, but so far it's easily in my top 3. It's a big surprise for me this season.
Okay, I know how it's gonna end, but I wonder what you guys think how it's gonna end.
I think it's gonna go back to episode 1 where we had that monster reveal, and then the one girl standing by herself at the end. So I'm still wondering if that's a future it's a possible future, or maybe that was the first game that happened in the past. So as far as ending, I think it's gonna be Snow White. Obviously, I don't think she's gonna die. She's gonna be left. I don't know if all the girls are gonna drop dead immediately and just leave her by herself, but I think it's gonna be a handful of them left, and they gotta go against Fav as the final boss. That's how I think it's gonna end.
I don't think it's going to have a final boss. I think there's going to be some sense of continuation,
Season 2.
and I think there's going to be some consensus or a movie or whatever they do. Yeah, it would be nice. It's good to see Lurch doing some good work like this. Maybe encourage him to do another season of Gakugurashi.
Yeah,
But
sure.
and they're making money from Assassination Classroom too, so they better do some return back to something good. But I think it's going to end with Ripple is going to be the next one to go, because it's much more interesting, dramatically speaking and story speaking, to have Swim and Snow White deal with each other. One who has had natural talent but little to no motivation, and one who has had to scramble for each little bit of talent and each little bit of motivation that she has. That's interesting. There's a dynamic there. Plus, someone has to teach that poor girl, look, killing is wrong. You gotta stop putting that that halberd into people's faces. Okay, can we not do that anymore?
And you gotta have that self-sacrifice thing with the ninja, because she doesn't really like the job that she's in right now. That's the impression I got from
She
her.
doesn't like herself when you get down to it.
She hates herself and doesn't like the magical girl side either, which is always a weird thing about that character. But yeah, I could see that being her.
Mm-hmm. And with Top Speed gone,
right? She needs to at least step up and prove that Top Speed's death wasn't for nothing. And I gotta have the revenge storyline. So
yep.
And with her as a ninja, that kind of fits the ninja role almost. Revenge.
Oh yeah, especially dying, committing that revenge for her her departed master.
And like you said, Swim needs to be slapped in the hand. Like, stop killing, stop it.
Yep. Stop sticking your spear in the people's faces.
And then running away.
She's killed the most people.
Yeah.
God. In vicious manners too. I mean,
like, yeah, some of them are vicious, but when she killed Top Speed, I'm like, that was dirty. Come out of nowhere and just poke her, and then just like, come on, really?
Well, when she killed Hardcore Alice, that was horrible. Like she's like almost as young as she is normally, or even younger.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It was like
just stab her twice.
It was like a horror movie. She was just running from Jason, and he's just chasing her. Who has water powers now? It's just like, oh God, get away from me! Nope, you can't get away from her. But yeah, I mean, it's entertaining. It's good. So I guess without spoiling, is any of us close to how things are ending?
I think Skylight is the closest to the ending.
Right.
Ish. Closest.
I'll take an ish.
I think you were off a little bit because I don't know. Have you seen the latest episode?
I haven't seen 11 yet, but.
Oh, okay. So yeah, the whole thing about the scene we saw way in the beginning is basically answered in this episode, and why, like, what that is, if that's past or future.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah, it's closer towards Sky's. Yeah,
that works.
And I've got an ish.
Yeah, ish.
Right.
Some of it's right, some of it's wrong. So it's like half and half.
No, I'll err on the side of making an interesting, provocative story.
I guess let's jump to I guess Flip Flappers. That's next, which me and Skylion talk about every week.
Yeah, we can skip
one of my
that.
Favorites, but yeah. We can probably skip that one for now. But yeah, that's a good one. Keijo, I guess I can briefly talk about, is easily one of the most over-the-top sports animes I've seen. And a lot of people are like, it's not sports, it's fan service. Like, it's a little bit of both.
It's pure fan service, and it's one of those things that it isn't in any way, shape, or form shy about its fan service in any way, shape, or form. I mean, it's right there up there with Zebix and To Love Ru, without the nudity or even the implied nudity or anything like that. So I think one of the things I appreciated about it is at the very beginning they gave. It was exaggerated for what the sport could do because it's animation. So just like ping pong girls, they show that there's an exaggerated sense of what the sport can do.
Right.
And then just gradually, as time gone on, as you get better, you start to develop superpowers.
Right. Yeah.
They've been just like with, and it's not because in Ping Pong Girls, the superpower is a matter of perception. It is an exaggeration. Here, it's not. You get good at Keijo, you develop superpowers.
Right, and the main girl can fire her butt cannon, which rips the clothes off.
Massive butt cannon. And the one girl has such a solid appreciation of the butts of all the girls she comes in contact with. She can summon them, like Archer summons the Gate of Babylon, the Gate of Budilon. She can summon all the butt techniques of the girls she has developed a solid friendship with and a working relationship with. So all the girls on her side of the east meets west of the Kyoto.
The apocalypse of Keijo. She can absorb people's powers.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just one of those things to where it's like, we're going to lean into the fan service as much as we possibly can. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I kind of like that aspect of the show, that it's not. I like how it knows what it is, and it's never going to try something different. We're not going to get like this dramatic death out of nowhere or something. A character who has realization of, something deeper. This is going to be just what it is. These girls.
And it's all. And another neat thing that I appreciated about it, it's all out there on the pool, on what do they call it, the land?
The land, yes.
The land. It's all out there on the land. I mean, there's training, there's different things like that, but once the training's over, it goes all out there in the competition space, and they work to make it varied. Like one episode, sometimes they're just on these little floating island thingies, like out of American Gladiator. And then it just like expands to like it's this weird scaffolding, which no one should be able to run across, but they can, like man.
Yeah, or airplanes that they had last.
And then in this next episode, they have these mock airplane sort of things that wobble back and forth, and you're on the wings and different things like that. It's just like, yeah, thank you for being creative, and thank you for being interesting. And and like a lot of different superpowered kind of competition shows like that, I guess. It's a martial arts program, but with superpowers, and
right. And also make the joke that it's fan service with Dragon Ball Z powers.
Yeah, there's no depth. There's literally no depth to the show. No. Everything it's all there. Everything is right there in front of you. There's no damn subtext to the show whatsoever.
Right. Even
there is.
Even when the characters, one of the dads of the girls are in this competition, he's not really for it either. He told her to stick with judo instead. And he's having to watch his daughter playing this sport, and the whole time he's like, this is absurd. He's basically the audience member that watches the show that doesn't think it's that great, while everyone else, the other fans, are just like, it's crazy, insane, but they have fun with it. So
it looks so painful. It just looks so painful.
Yeah,
that is. I mean, you know it is. I mean, you know it is. It would be like if guys gotten.
Right, people made the comment too. They're like, "Where's the guy version of this?" I'm like, there's not much to that then, because the girls they can use their butts and they use their boobs and they can do all kinds, even their nipples. It gets all in there. It's crazy. There's a part where the girl basically body slams another girl using only her nipple. I was like, wow.
Well, because
just was nuts.
She can make her nipple twist up and deliver a cyclone blow.
Right. A judo throw basically is what you can do.
Yeah.
I was like that.
And,
that was funny, but again, this show you can't take serious. I mean, people who are if they take it too serious, and I know people are like, oh my god, all the girls are the same body type. Like, no, not really. There are girls in this show that are like large women. There's girls that are super muscle bound too. Like, they could just be pro wrestlers.
And the one of the main girl on top, I can't remember her name right now, but she has the white hair. She's modest of bust and of hip and butt, but she knows how to use it. So it runs the gamut on different things like that.
Yeah, they highlight it because of that. It does show body image in different ways. It's not just skinny girls. There are girls that are like, again, they're muscular, very muscular. They could easily be in the wrestling leagues if they wanted to be.
I mean, it's as body positive as a show like this can be.
Right, exactly.
Which is to say, not much.
Right. Right. Because there's this one girl that looks like a guy, but she has like this side ponytail. She's on the main girls team.
Yeah, that's about the only way you could probably ever determine that it's a woman. She has a side tail.
Right.
And even that is generous. I want him to go back to the Siren Girl, the girl that's actually, bulky. She's a big girl.
Right.
And I want to see what she can do.
The instructor now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing what she was like back in the day, but.
No, I want to see what she's like now.
Right. Yeah.
Who cares? I mean, back when she looked like a hottie or something like that. I want to
train the girls. Right now, so I mean, it's fun. But yeah, I think that's what I like about the show. It's just fun. Yeah, a lot of people are like, "Oh, this fan service." Like, it is, but not to the extreme of like a Tula Fruit style series. This one's more. It's tame in certain ways.
I mean, it's not nudity in any way, shape, or form.
Right, we're not getting that. Next show we'll talk about real quick is I guess you can talk about Three Gods to No Line, which I think was on 3-week break. It was gone.
It was like on a 2 to 3 week break. It was like I was looking around and going, "Have I been missing shows or something like that?" Because it was the same time that I kind of had Natsume kind of drop off my radar as well, and I was like wondering, am I just doing a bad job at keeping up with all these shows?
That, and I think recently got announced a live action version of this anime.
Yeah,
coming out, which is like, I guess it works.
It's really weird to me because I know that they're trying to say something that has subtext, that has a multifaceted ideal with the shogi.
Right.
But I don't know enough. It's like one of those things to where you have to kind of like appreciate a lot about like real yokai horror stories to be able to appreciate some horror manga or some horror anime. and you just have to be a member of that culture to be able to fully get an appreciation.
Right. That's
So
why,
there's something
yeah.
about Thrigatsu no Lion to where you have to understand some principles of shogi that get percolated into your culture to be able to understand how it's using it to tell its story.
Right. That's how I feel with All Out, which is a rugby anime.
Yeah.
Same like that with that series. Like I like the idea of it's football. It's something different, but I don't know.
It's
enough,
rugby.
I
It's
don't know
not
enough
football.
about the sport itself to be invested in it. Same with
It'd be like if they did a cricket anime or something
right.
like that.
I wouldn't know anything about it. But as regards No Lion, it kind of gets me interested in shogi. I mean, I've always been interested in that, but to me, it looks straight up boring. I'm sorry.
It has
I
me.
can't
It's
play that.
chess.
It's so boring.
It's a different version of chess.
Right.
It has, for me, it's all about the characterization, and it's all about what he sees in this extended family and this adopted family that he come across.
Right. That's why I got in the series too. It's not about the sport or the game he's playing. It's about the character.
It's about what he's lost and what he's trying to attempt to regain.
I think he's
not quite.
Yeah. Out of all characters that have sad backstories, I think he has the saddest I've seen.
Jiminy Christmas! It's written. It's a tragedy written by committee, for crying out
Both
loud.
parents died in a car accident.
And his stepfather was murdered, and his stepmother was dangled from her ankles by a vulture or something. I mean, it's just his sister was turned into mulch and set on fire or something like that. I mean, it's just one of those tragic backstories. It's like every single time you turn around, something bad happens to him.
Right, but
and nothing good.
I mean,
he has
the three sisters that show up and kind of
an absolutely adorable, well-behaved, like preschool girl that anyone would like to spend time with. A precocious, cute middle school girl that's roughly around the same age that is just adorable. A hot housewife hostess woman that likes to take care of them. And it's just like, I'm so miserable. Like,
or the
fuck you, dude.
The fat friend who's like full of life.
And full of life and rich. And it's just like...
And you're waiting for him to like kill over him, like, yeah, he's probably got diabetes or cancer. I don't know.
Oh,
he's got something sad
but
going on.
But he's also Totoro. He's also that universe's version of Totoro to the little girl. And it's just amazing. It's just like all of this amazing stuff happening around it, and like he has to focus on his misery and how he only has shogi to look forward to.
Right.
It's like marry either one of the two older girls when you get older. You will be happy as a clam. I guarantee.
Which is what I thought they were doing with the middle girl. That they're gonna.
No. But that's for right now. They have to develop things. But 5 years from now, 10 years from now, babies ever after, family ever after. That's the way it should end. But right now, they've got to go through the suffering angle, which is interesting to watch. Shaft is really good at being able to
throwing
do
the Shaft visuals of getting across the pain he's going through. I guess.
About how they frame it, because usually they'll take efforts to show that the three girls are always either in profile or facing the camera. He is either off to the side table when he's enjoying food, or his back is to the camera, and it exemplifies how separate he still feels from them.
Right, and then you have like the comedy bits that Shaft kind of does pretty well. They can do a serious story at the same time, but then throw in these bits of comedy, like the cats talking. It's
also,
usually my favorite part. The cat's just going crazy, but it does get annoying after some parts. But it is funny they give them voices.
They little brief little cutie like kind of voices you would expect from an animal. But the most recent episode, I think, was the most devastating for him, because his former stepsister kind of came back into his life, more grown up than he is, and she has a relationship with a gangster that it's like she still loves him or something like that. And you could tell it's just
I think he doesn't hit her, but I think they're kind of commenting about that he
that if she's bragging or she's making stuff up or something like that. But there's this thing that she wants to dehumanize him in some way, shape, or form. So she comes over, sleeps in his house,
in a state of too, where he was like a young boy and she kind of jumped on top of him, whatever. I was like, that would cause a little bit of trauma later on for someone, but because it's kind of his stepsister's sort of whatever to him.
So they heavily throw things on him in that point, because she basically that latest episode, she unmanned him when you get right down to it, and is probably trying to throw him off his game of shogi when you get down to it, because he threw her off her game, and now she's with a gangster. And so there's all this, there's this shifting, there's a shifting human stew going on in the show.
Right, which is why it's fun watching him when he's with the other girls. They bring a little bit of life into the series.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I know it's about him more than anything, and not about chess, about him getting through his problems and all that. But yeah, I mean, as far as like, what would you say, like, compared to like Your Lie in April? Because it's on the recommendations on Mal as being like the #1 recommendation for this show.
I don't see how either one of the two shows really connect.
The only thing I see connection is the main character. Both of them have to go through that dark past crap.
Yeah, I mean, that's about the only real connection, but they explore it in different ways. The subtexts are completely different. The methods about how he got there are
where he's going.
Either both of those two characters got there are different. I mean, there's a dark past connection, but other than that, the shows are completely different.
Or the moment, like, when are they gonna kill themselves? I'm just kidding. That's wrong.
I mean, for him, I mean, it's
yeah. I mean, I can see it.
I mean, I know for a fact, having to deal with that, suicidal ideation is habit forming. It becomes part of who you are sometimes.
Right.
And the thing about it is you don't have to directly want to have a suicidal plan, but you know, if I'm sure he kind of feels like if his building collapsed on him, he wouldn't mind.
Right.
Or if he was walking on one of those bridges and they collapsed and took it with him, he wouldn't. That wouldn't bother me. If a bus
tragic shogi accident.
If a tragic, he swallowed a shogi but flipped up in the air or something like that, he probably thinks of things like that because that's how people that get suicidal thoughts think.
Right, and then you get the opposite side of that. You have Barakamon being a recommendation. So if that says anything about Mal, which is always weird. But yeah, I mean,
there's a reason I only use Mal for like who does what on a show. Yeah, there's reasons why I use that.
Right,
Got a bunch of 13-year-olds doing Mal editing. Get lost. Drop another ball, will you?
Yeah. So yeah, this one's pretty good. I mean, again,
I enjoy it.
It's interesting. But yeah, next show would be I guess Drifters. Which for me will be. I'll just quickly talk about it. It's one of those shows where you have blending of character from one world gets pulled to another. But this one does it like times 10 or 20. There's all these different characters from the history being pulled together in this big war, which is interesting. Last episode kind of revealed something about one of the characters on the evil side, that he might be a dark version of Jesus. And I was like, if that's true, that's pretty interesting what they're doing with him, because he can cure diseases, he can create food out of nothing. He had this bunch of grain, he made bread for these monsters. So, and then he had holes in his hands. So I'm like, if he's a dark version of Jesus, that's kind of interesting that they're going that far.
That always reminds me of a Patton Oswalt routine to where he was saying, like, how does Jesus end up in the Super Friends or the Justice League? Because he's got two competing power sets. Right. One is like bring himself back to life and bring anyone else back to life, and then infinite food guy. These two things don't match. How does this work? I mean, he's two different superheroes in the Justice League. He's Resurrection Man and Food Man. Stop trying to be both.
Yeah, but in this
version,
but
he can.
Do what? Do what?
I said yes, but he can.
Son of God.
In this version,
all miracles be his.
Right. In this version of him, you can resurrect the dead, obviously, but you can also, curse somebody, give them like cancer. He did it to one of the monsters in this game, like cancer cells, and his skin got all bloated. So he can do things like that. But also the other characters, like you have this World War II fighter jet pilot, which is crazy how they can throw that in there. In a world that's like basically Lord of the Rings style world, you have goblins, orcs, you have dwarves and elves, and there's this fighter pilot jet out of nowhere shooting dragons, which is pretty awesome. Just seeing that as far as animation goes, the character itself isn't that great, but just seeing that difference in the future, a kind of modern-ish world with the fantasy was kind of cool. Just seeing that, and they brought in like two cowboys from the West, Billy the Kid and some other guy, Butch Cassidy. And just seeing them interacting with samurais and elves is kind of cool. It's very different than those other shows.
Reminds me of a long-standing, role-playing game called Rifts, where the basic idea is that these interdimensional portals will just open up across dimensions, and just you have the opportunity to mix like mecha pilots from dozens of different mech genres into one space, along with mutants and superheroes and magic users and and demigods and intelligent dinosaurs. You just throw everything into a stew pot to see how it works.
Right, and this show does that. I mean, a lot of the things that they're doing, they even have mentioned if Adolf Hitler was in there a long time ago. He was a ruler of one of the lands. So I was like, it's interesting seeing that. Then you have Nobunaga in the same universe.
So it's almost kind of like Fate, but what would the heroes from Fate do if they didn't have to compete for the Holy Grail?
And they didn't have a master to work with either.
And they have a master or anything like that. They're free agents, do whatever they want to.
Which is what I think is cool about this show, just seeing, and it gets me interesting to look at some of the characters, like their history, where they come from. It's kind of interesting doing that.
Okay, I've promised myself that I would catch up with the series, but I never managed to get to it.
And it has one of the best openings. The song and the animation on that is just really cool.
That would be Euphonium 2 that has no. I'm kidding.
Right. But yeah, it's interesting to see the blending of all these historical characters together, even though some are fighting each other, some are working together. So even you have people from the Roman Empire in there. So it's just interesting to see the mixing of all those worlds into one.
Well, I love a genre blender when you get right down to it.
Right. And I like the fact that it's just not Nobunaga only. It's other characters. That's been done to the ground.
Yeah. I imagine Anime can probably take Nobunaga and drill him into the damn ground.
Right. And the last thing I mentioned is Joan of Arc's in it, and she's like the evil version of Joan of Arc. Like that. She can shoot fire.
I'm tired of Joan of Arc.
Right.
Yeah, same here too,
Yeah, me too, a little bit tired. But I like the spin they put on that where how she died equals the power she got. Being burned alive, now she has firepower. So.
Awesome. No, I kind of like that. Because that was almost kind of like how they had it in heck, I covered the show 2 years ago with Favreau. Right. That one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bahamut, yeah.
Yeah. The Joan of Arc there also had fire powers too, because she was burned alive at the stake.
They have Anastasia. She, I guess, died in the snow, so she has snow power. So.
Yeah. She's a Yuki Musume.
Right, that's what I kind of like about the show too. They do give people some of them have powers, some of them don't. But yeah, like you said, her dying in fire, giving her power, is a kind of interesting idea. And making her evil.
Would make
she's not
good
really
basis for a role-playing game.
She's not really a good character. She's evil on the evil side. So, but yeah, Drifters is pretty fun. But it's got the same guys that did Hellsing. So if you really like Hellsing, that animation style and that kind of storytelling is close to that.
I remember, when the 80s gave way to the 90s and kind of like that violent sort of Akira Ninja Scroll kind of thing gave way to me being able to finally discover something like Ranma 1/2. That kind of Ranma 1/2 kind of charted my anime fandom from there, because I've always enjoyed goofy, weird comedies more so than I ever did the Hellsing violent ones.
Right.
And and as I've gotten older and middle-aged, cute girl shows.
Right. Jump down to, I guess, Izetta, since Irene put it on there. I kind of dropped it early on, but I know what's kind of going on lately with the series. I know there's clones involved. There's the late episodes, but I'll let you talk about it.
Well, to be honest, I've actually kind of dropped it too, but it was one of the first series that I was actually interested in. Well, actually, I wasn't interested in it at all to start with. Like when it first was advertised and was just out there, I was like, oh yeah. I'm not, I've never been a big Yuri or girl, GL, whatever fan or anything like that, and so it seemed to have that sort of like feel to it, and then it had like we have sort of like a World War II sort of setting, which I like that. So I was like, well, it's getting a lot of buzz, and I'll check out like the first episode. And I was actually really liking the first episode, and I continued it on for about 4 or 5 episodes. It's kind of the same I did with Yuri on Ice. But somehow, some way, in like around that 4 or 5 episode mark, it sort of felt like it dropped the ball and it decided wanted to go in an entirely different direction than it had started off in doing. And I think that's where it ended up kind of losing a lot of people at that point, because it felt like you started off around with this kind of really not grim per se, but a war setting basically with this with this war between Germania and it'll stack whatever their little duchy is called, and you're like, okay, so the tiny little country going against the big country, and I'm like, I mean, even though in my head I'm like, why doesn't Germany just go around and attack the country around it? I mean, it's so small. Just go around it.
They're also in mountains, and those are difficult to be able to traverse reliably. I mean, the Alps are kind of difficult to muster large forces around, and when you have, I mean, the idea of being able to penetrate Edelstadt is the fact that, one, it had traditionally up until that point built up an exchequer of being something you couldn't conquer because of its position in the mountains, and it had two key strong points where it could. And so for Germania to be able to develop mounted forces and flying forces that could be able to get through that changed the game, and it changed what this alternate version of Europe thought. It also had the legend of the White Witch behind it, which gave them big exchequer to it. That's the biggest reasons why they invaded that, instead of, say, advancing on to Gallia, which would be in France and Belgium and different things like that. Because I mean, they've made no mention of World War I in this show. So I don't know if that's part of the history or not. Once you start dealing with alternate histories like that, it's like, man, how much of this game has changed, and because the countries do have different names, it makes me think a lot of the Roman Empire and how the Roman Empire might not have fallen, nor might it not have transformed into the Holy Roman Empire, and thusly the larger part of the Catholic Church of the medieval era. So I mean, the history buff in me is going. And the gaming buff in me, because this is role playing game settings that I freaking love to think about, and so it's just like, how do these things work? But geographically speaking, Switzerland was always like that because it was entrenched in the mountains. That's just the way it goes, and in both world wars, it was able to stay neutral because of that, even with the power of flight, because you couldn't get them all at one point, and they knew how to get out of the mountains better than anyone knew how to get in, and they had 1 million troops. So if the Allies attacked them, that's 1 million troops that would commit to the other forces. If the Axis powers attacked them, the same thing goes on the other side. That's why Switzerland and Edelstadt always had a precarious kind of position to be able to play off neutrality.
I mean, I understand that, but at the same time, you're thinking like, well, one, Edelstadt's not Switzerland. It's much too small than Switzerland, but also it's positioned differently too. But also it's the fact that they mentioned in the beginning they've already attacked Gaul / France. On the other side.
Yeah, but that wasn't their main goal.
Well, no, to me, I'm like, you could easily okay, if you have footholds on this side of Europe, on the west side of Europe, and on the east side of Europe, and you have this tiny little duchy that's in the middle, is it really? I mean, from the way the map looked, it looked like they were going around Edelstadt anyway, and they were already attacking the people on the west side of Edelstadt, which to me is like, you could do just a simple pincer attack and just okay, we have this side and this side, so you're just in the center, surrounded by us.
Unless those mountains are unpassable and they couldn't get a good flight pattern over them, because fighters like that they had at that point are low yield and they hadn't committed bombers yet. I mean, there's lots of different ways you can think about that. The way they set it up is the way they set it up.
Especially mountain plus high speed jet doesn't really work that well. As we saw in I think one episode, episode 2 or 3, where they're just getting destroyed.
I would post that, except for there's the issue of the fact that they were losing. They were going to fall. They were going to fall in like episode 3 if it wasn't for
Magical Witch
Izetta, who is
Right, that was awesome.
because of that, she's actually the character that I like the least because
she's
a plot device. She's a walking. Now I want to say Deus Ex Machina, but she's a machina of some kind, and she's there to get them out of trouble. She's there to push them into like, oh yeah, we can do this and stuff. But it's like, you guys would have lost. You need more than her.
Which is eventually why, if you would have stuck with the thing, you do notice that the war of attrition against them eventually does start working out. They are able to press on. They are able to discover her weakness. So her Deus Ex Machina, actually, as the series progresses, does start to wear out, and she meets a bigger threat.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
Her ancestor. Oh, no.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
the White Witch ancestors come at one point.
They leaned heavy into the not Nazi, but still Nazi, weird clony magic science thing.
The JoJo.
Oh,
the JoJo thing,
actually
basically.
surprised. I was curious if they did not have the Emperor actually looking like Hitler, and they actually had the other guy.
He's a freaking Bishonen, man, for crying out loud. He's the most handsome emperor ever.
They can't get... The only Hitler we get is Hitler from Gundam. You know, the only Hitler we can get right now.
But,
I'm like, why?
Closest.
Why is he different? Though some people have suggested that they might have taken like World War One sort of like era stuff and mixed it with World War II. That's why he looks like that. So because he's kind of like World War One Germany sort of look. And cause, I mean, like you have Edelstadt who has their really loud looking uniforms, which was more World War One style than World War II style.
Fading in and out. Again, there's a lot of cultural mores about this world which shift around. For crying out loud, I mean, the United States has a Latin name to it. It's not called America, so that means there was no conference in which Amerigo Vespucci, who was more than just a map maker, he was also a politician, was able to put that part, his name, on that newly discovered hemisphere. It's called Atlanta, which is a Latin term. No, I know everyone laughs at that term, but there is historical precedent for it. Oh God! This is the part where the history buff in me says, "Shut up! You're being petulant." There is historical precedent for this hemisphere to be called Atlanta. Where do you think we got the term for the Atlantic Ocean?
No, I'm still like Atlanta.
It makes perfect sense to me. It makes absolute perfect sense to me. I mean, it makes as much sense for Amerigo Vespucci to name an entire hemisphere, for crying out loud, because he was a politician. You know, I mean, there was something happening at that point. So, like I said, there's an extension of the Holy Roman Empire. There's an extension of the Catholic Church, which had a huge influence over the shaping.
I was say
that
name sounded like Chef Boyardee's brother or something.
What?
Amerigo Vespucci.
Amerigo Vespucci?
He wasn't as successful as his brother.
No, he wasn't as successful as
ravioli. As ravioli cans.
You want to conquer America, man? Make cheap Italian products in a can.
I mean,
I miss those.
The only time I thought Izetta was cool was when she was fighting all those tanks. Using her powers,
just dropped lances on them like we drop pennies in a fountain.
I mean, that's the only time I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." Then I was like, "Okay, I'm bored." After that,
I can kind of see that. I like it for some of the interpersonal
about all this time. We've been talking about the politics, the history part, the parody part, which is what I always found most interesting about the show. And yet somehow it feels like they went in an entirely different direction and decided to go more towards Izetta and hijinks and
shoving the Yuri stuff hard.
It tries to be a lot of different anime things. I'll give it that much. It has a very loose approach to its pen, and so it does try to be a lot of different things without being focused, which I'm okay with. It's entertaining.
Yeah, it's like I'd rather watch the witch anime that was out 2 seasons ago. More about the slice of life witch girl who was just living life in the country.
Oh, Flying Witch,
Yeah,
the other Flying
I'd
Witch,
rather have that witch.
the one that didn't go to war or anything like that.
The one who's not like, I love my friend, but I can't. I'm just a tool. You're being used for weapons. But that's the way I took it at first, anyway. So yeah.
All right.
Last show we talked about is Long Riders. Another show that I got halfway through and was just like, nope, I'm done.
I like it. It's quaint. It's charming. It's fun. It's probably out of all the cute girls doing cute things that gets this traditional comparison to K-On! This really is K-On! Only with bikes.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. Some of the characterizations are the same. Some of the way they approach the characters is the same. But it doesn't stop it from being charming and fun and interesting. I like the characters. I like spending time with them. The show's not going to set the world on fire. It never wanted to.
No, yeah. I'm more my speed's more of the Bakugan, the motorcycle girls. That's more my speed.
Yeah.
The character's a little more entertaining, but Long Riders is okay.
I'd rather see, in rather Actest, mess their schedule up on this. I'd rather see them do more Girls and Panzer, to be quite honest, but not at Long Riders quality, which is admittedly pretty below average.
I was gonna say the quality of animation is not that great compared to
blending. I mean, if there's a blending of CGI to traditional 2D that's worse than Brave Witches, Long Riders is going to get it.
Yeah, there are moments. So, I've never seen some moments at the beginning where they do have CGI for a good portion of the episode, like they're writing, and then they switch to 3D, 2D. It's like
it doesn't blend very well.
Right, and some of the characters' eyes are kind of off, but that just happens.
Yeah,
right?
character modeling is an issue.
Like buy the Blu-ray, everything be fixed.
Maybe.
But maybe. But that's it for the TV shows. Returning shows would be kind of sequels. We do get spin-offs. Want to do them real quick? Yeah, really fast. Working. I dropped
not
that
as
early.
Not as good as I'm still with it. It is not as good as the original series. It's everyone is some different flavor of snark, and it's so hard.
That one struggles to be. I mean, I feel for the creators. It can't be as good as the original. It never will be.
Well, the one thing about this version of Working is that this was the original past. This was the creator's original Wagneria.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It was his first draft. The show that we come to know and love was his second draft, his second idea. Yeah, weird, isn't it?
Yeah. We got Natsumi, which I wanted to watch. I was a fan of the first 2-3 seasons. I just dropped off. I think season 4 was the last one. I think
I got to catch up to it. I can't believe a show like this I let fall off my radar. So I'm going to be catching up to it either tomorrow or in the week.
It's a roller coaster, I would say, for a lot of episodes.
It kind of goes back and forth in theme and tone a little bit, but I like that. I like that a show.
I remember watching it, going like one episode would be that comedy, laughing, having fun. Next episode, oh god, depression. Like this is so sad.
I like that though.
And there's like sad again, happy. I'm like, oh, this show, it plays with you. Hibiki Euphonium came back. A lot of people are excited. I'm a fan, but I'm not really a big fan of most people.
It's one of the best shows this season. I mean, it for an erstwhile writer like myself, it is a bar none fucking masterclass on how to do character beats.
Right, character drama, yes.
Character beats. How to do a story beat using character from one change to the next, and doing it with such grace. I mean, a lot of shows skip things around a little bit. This show is so complete in how it's a masterclass about how to get characters right. So it's a joy.
On Twitter that I kind of agreed on. Season 1 is about the band. Season 2 is more about the characters. What they gotta go through.
Yeah, it expands beautifully upon that base. Right. If they did a season of it, it could just. It could only be better.
My only gripe was some of the drama was kind of, in my opinion, kind of dumb.
There's
the drama about the girl who left the band and wanted back in.
There's been some soap opera aspects to it, but people behave like that.
I know, but they kind of drug that little story arc on for too long, I think.
A little bit, yeah.
The whole girl that she left and then had second thoughts and wanted to come back.
Yeah.
And then caused drama for the other girl that every time she saw her, she would freak out. I'm like, I guess, but to me, it's like they could have easily kind of nipped that a little bit earlier on.
Yeah, they had
like half the season
again.
Was about that.
What I said is they follow that thread and they don't shorten the characterization. Right. They keep it going as naturally as they possibly can. So they kind of had to follow it through. Right. I'm the same way you did. I felt like that was maybe an episode
Yeah, that could be
too much, an
two
episode's worth of
episodes,
material too much.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this year with Luke Cage. It was like when he was like on his back and being boiled in acid for like 2.5 episodes. I was like, I wanted to see Luke Cage, man, this superhero guy, not some guy laying on his back. Okay, come on, let's stop this and get on with it. But they had to see that whole thing through, so this is the same thing here.
And they, just Asuka's thing, which is fine. I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, I think they did a very good job on these characters. I mean, again, like you said, they act like people would act like. I agree. Yeah, that is true. Jump to that the Brave Witches, which we've kind of highlighted a little bit about the CGI and animation not doing.
It's.
Blending.
I mean, the only thing I can really add to it that I don't normally add to every post, because I mean, again, I've gotten lazy this season as compared to last season, so I'm covering shows under a limited period of time, but it's a mediocre to above average show, really, when you get right down to it. They've not done anything to expand on the Strike Witches formula.
The only thing they've kind of expanded on is they've included some of the girls in the first Strike Witches here and there.
It's
they make
cameos. It enriches it ever so slightly, but it's too little.
They showed one of the teams that I've been interested in, the ground unit team, which is girls these tank.
Yeah, briefly. It's always a morsel.
It was kind of cool seeing that.
Same here. But yeah, I wish there was a bit more fire in the show. I wish there was a bit more change up from a formula. But again, it looks like it's comfortable being what it is.
Right, and I kind of like that. I always forget that it's set in the 40s, whatever. I always forget. I'm like, where's the
or
tech,
that version
where's
of the 40s?
Where's the tech and all that? Like, oh wait, that's like this show doesn't have that. Like this, it's set in that
kind
of.
They're just now starting to reverse engineer the Noroi, so you're going to have to wait for super tech later.
And then from that, Haikyuu season 3 just ended. 10 episodes this season for season 3, and they're going to have a 4th season obviously because there's one more tournament to go through. So it's never ending. But with that show, it's always entertaining. I think I've said it before, even with Yuri and Ice. Haikyuu keeps you on the edge of your seat every time there's a match. It feels like you're watching a real volleyball match, and that's kind of interesting how they've done it, where you see both sides of the team, you get to experience both teams, how they act, and it's not just one side beating the other. That's kind of interesting. Next one would be Lost Excite Wicross, which is season 2 Wicross, which is kind of interesting. They've done little things that are different, things that are the same. The rule base in this game is your memories. You have 5 coins. Lose 5 coins, you basically lose your. I guess the card takes over and takes your body. And in this one, even when you win the game, it's still the same thing with Wicross. First season, doesn't go the way you think it would go. You make a wish, they do the reverse, and still take your body. Alright, actually they haven't done that yet, but they do reverse your wish. One girl wished to have memories of her brother that died. She forgot about him, and she got the memories back, but it was like a nightmare for her, reliving that day of when her brother was missing, whatever. So it's interesting they've blended some of the rules up from the first season there.
I feel kind of bad about Lost Urge about this because Selector Wicross was my introduction to writing for Metanorn.
Right.
And I'm just not. I watched 2 episodes of the show and I dropped it because I just wasn't interested. It's just like Brave Witches is repetition. This just feels like repetition, even with the wrinkles. So it's just like, yeah, I can do without this one.
In a way, it is, but in a way they've done different things with this show.
Yeah. I mean, you're sticking with it. You're sticking with it, so I'm sure you're rewarded for it.
Yeah, all the characters go through things that reward you here and there, and the rules, and you even see characters from the first season kind of cross over in this. So it's kind of cool seeing that continuation of what's happened since the movies and all of this stuff's gone on. Next is Baruki Baranki Season 2. Me and Irene are kind of talking about that here and there on Mechanorn. It's more, for me, it's more of the same as first season, or first half, I would say. It's the team working together to save the world from Guy, who's this evil, I think he's French. I'm not sure where he's from. But he's a weird character. He's finally the main bad guy, and finally showing his true colors. I think episode 10, I think, is the last I saw. Yeah.
I've seen episode 11. To be honest, I have no idea what they're gonna do with episode 12 because I will tell you this: they're pretty much ending it's over by the end by this in this last episode 11. So at the end of episode 11, so it's pretty much over. I liked it to begin with. I thought it was better than the first series, but then somewhere halfway through, I think they rushed really too fast through it, and it just fell upon itself. The villain who used to be kind of interesting, he's now completely, what's the word I'm looking for? Cliche. Right. Very, very, very cliche. And it's like, oh gosh, you used to be interesting. What happened to you?
To me, it's like it's a classic Saturday morning villain. I'm gonna rule the world, blah ha ha, and all. It's like, yeah, we get it. We know.
And it's all about, teamwork. Let's work together, blah blah blah. And it ends kind of how you kind of expect. I think there's only like one surprise that you find out about, which I feel like they pulled out of nowhere, and it was like, really, okay, fine.
Right. I mean, the only thing I like about season 2 is I like it as a whole, but just including the sister, finally, who we were wanting first season, when including her, she makes it a little bit more lively, which is what the show kind of needs. It needs to go back to the weird giant robot anime, not something super serious. Is what I like.
Yeah, I honestly wish it was more about her, because basically Ozma never changes, and he's still the most dumb, annoying character of like a dull white bread that you will ever meet, and he never changes, and he's always right, and it's like, I hate you. I hate your character. I hate and the thing is, it's still around him. Basically, the sister is there, but she's basically she hasn't been put on a bus technically, but she's basically been put on a bus. She's like on the side, really on the side at this point. She barely has any screen time, or even any purpose in the story, and it's really annoying and kind of a little aggravating for me, because it's like, okay, she can't have any power because her brother has the power. Yeah. And her father didn't train her because she's a girl. And because she's younger. And it's like, But she's a better character. She's more interesting. She has all the different character arcs. And yet she gets shafted the whole time. And it's like, But yeah.
Right, yeah, I agree. I mean, I kind of wish it was like Ozma's the one who got missing. Got missing in the beginning. She was the one that she was the one that took up the team. But then you'd have the weird dynamic of 4 girls, 1 guy in the team, which would you all revert to? Oh, blonde guy has a harem now. All the girls on his team. If Ozma wasn't the lead of that team, I can always see it. A team's always usually typical 2 guys, 3 girls, and a 5 team up type. Yeah. Thing. I'm like, but
sometimes you gotta have a harem.
Right. And jump to Gundam Iron Blood season 2, which more of the same as the first season. I think a little bit better. There's characters that they've developed a lot more on, and surprises of the 2 people hooking up recent episode, which I could not stop laughing when I heard that. It was like the best news. I'm like, wow, this is pretty good.
It was like came out of nowhere. Like, wait a minute, those 2 are together?
Right.
Okay.
The big engineer guy, and then the blonde secretary. I'm like, huh. Those 2. That's interesting.
I mean, it makes sense when you really think about it and you go back and look at like their together, but like before that, you're like, what? I guess it just came out of like we have Chad, the character who basically is the one who finds out about it. And he basically the audience. And
he's the audience. Meanwhile, he's like, if that guy can get a girlfriend, then he's probably thinking there's hope for me. Like, I don't think so. There's no girls around. I'm sorry.
There's very few girls around, but I have a feeling that
Akihiko and the blonde girl.
Well, yeah, her. But I have a feeling like their so-called husband / the harem guy Naze. I have a feeling like he might not last much longer, depending on how the series. The series actually been picking up a lot for me. I honestly like it a lot more than the first season because it's gone. It's been doing a lot more than it did last season. Last season was basically we had to get from point A to point B, and we have all these different points we meet in the middle. And basically, the whole purpose of that was to get you to know the characters and what their whole purpose is, and basically to have you fall in love with Tekkaden. The second season is them actually doing things, and they are actually going really like full steam ahead with a lot of stuff. But
Right.
especially like this most recent episode with finding out what things they uncovered in their mind,
Oh yeah.
unknowing.
To me, I'm like, well, they found the final boss. I guess space laser cannon thing, which is always the thing in Gundam. It always comes down to one team has a giant space laser. Oh, we gotta stop them. Which is, I
Well,
guess,
tech,
very Star Wars.
yeah, that was actually something that put a lot of people over for this last episode because they basically were saying there was going to be no beam weapons in this series,
And now there
and
are.
all of a sudden but that also throws off the balance of power now because basically nobody has it except for this one thing.
Well, that and it's a kind of a self-aware AI that's gonna be
Yeah.
it has no side, so it's gonna be by itself. So technically, it's just a one enemy they all gotta fight. So it's like it works. It's not owned by one group, which is different, I guess, but still not that great. It gives me Gundam 00 movie flashbacks. I don't want that. Where they introduced aliens into that universe. I was like, oh god, no. Now they're gonna
Well,
introduce AI into
Gundam can't
this.
have aliens.
No, not really. It's just a thing that doesn't work for them.
that's
It's
Kind
just
of
probably
like
the only
absurd.
one I know that has aliens. I think there was two. There was
Uh,
two that had aliens in it. I think it was Double O, and I think Victory might have had some aliens.
but
I
yeah, I
think.
mean, I guess if you think they're the people from Mars, I guess maybe they're Martians. I guess it, but
Age,
I don't know. It's
well, age, not really, but
yeah,
yeah. I like the idea of the AI. And what's going to happen with like the politics that's basically been going around.
mm,
What's going to basically be happening next? We're coming towards the season finale, if you really call it that, in mid-season finale. So and they've been basically pushing a lot of Mikazuki versus Vidar in a lot of the promotional arts. So I'm interested because Vidar has not done much of anything this season. He's been there. He's been this presence. Almost everybody has guessed who he is, and it'll be really, really funny if he isn't who everybody thinks he is.
right. I'm hoping.
But
Yeah, I mean, that'd be insane.
but everybody has guessed who he is, and it's like he's just been sort of in the background, not really doing anything, and so he's supposedly going to come out like and do something in like about 2 or 3 episodes, whatever the series like sort of ends for the winter,
Right. Yeah.
before it airs, and so that's going to be
I'm
interesting
trying to have
to
my fingers
see.
crossed. Maybe that third act of the series. I'm like more episodes. Come on. I won't. But I don't think I'm gonna go that far. Maybe. I mean, I had my doubts with the second season, but we got one. So, but yeah,
It's possible.
yeah,
I've heard a lot of talk like about some people wanting to have
a movie
either an
maybe.
OVA, a movie, or
Yeah.
like a separate series that involves like what happened during the Calamity Wars, which I think would be really interesting.
Right.
Like the all these characters that get mentioned sort of in the series, and we hear like it was a war against AI, which is very interesting, and I think that would be an interesting series to see.
Right.
If they do a sequel, that would be interesting too. Though I don't know. It all depends on like where this series is going to
Right. I
end,
mean,
I
because
guess.
there's a lot of characters that, you know, you could have children later on. Their kids could be the ones to, experience more wars and all this. Because they are hinting heavily at laughter and Akihiko hooking up because those two kind of spend a lot of time together. And like you said, if the other guy dies, the harem guy, then all these girls kind of don't really have anyone to go with. So, and the children of his children could probably join their group, and they need someone to lead them and all that. So, I guess things happen with those kids. But yeah,
Hmm.
Gundam romance to me is like I don't put too much investment in all that because I know bad things happen to those
Like
in
no,
those. And with laughter and Akihiko both being pilots, it's not a good thing
I'm
either.
I'm hoping because there's been too much stuff has happened to Akira,
uh,
and it's like
oh
he's
yeah,
lost
that's
two.
right.
Like could
Two
you give him something,
he's
anything?
lost two little brothers. Yeah,
It's like everything happens to him. It's, I mean, he just like can we just not?
right. I forgot about that. Yeah, I'm like he does deserve a little bit of happiness here and there.
Something. Yeah, something.
Then you have, on the other side, you have Space Lolly, whatever her name is, the purple-haired girl who's gonna get used for something later. They're hinting heavily at something happening with her, and because they show her in the opening and all this. Yeah, I'm like they're gonna use her for something. She's gotta do something. Get killed off.
Yeah, I'm not. She has no attachment, so she's either gonna die or she's gonna end up falling in love with another character
or being
that
traumatized, realizing that her friend, her brother got killed by her fiance or whatever. Like, oh, you killed my brother. Oh no. But yeah, I think that's it for Gundam. I mean, it's fun. I still recommend it for anyone who hasn't seen Gundam. Go back and watch the first season. But yeah, I think that's it for all these shows. I mean, we talked about a lot with the anime. I guess a quick last thing to do is what's our top 3 favorite series of the season so far? I mean, Skyline, I guess you can go with yours.
Hibike Euphonium 2, Girlish Number, and Flip Flappers.
Those are nice. Irene, what do you got up here?
Well, me being a major Gundam fangirl, Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans is number 1 for me, followed by Mahou Shoujo Raising Project. And last, I was really fighting between Yuri on Ice and Babuki Baranki, but I actually like Yuri on Ice a lot more, though. Yuri on Ice.
Right, yeah, nice. Mine's Flip Flappers, Magical Girl Rising Project, Drifters, which was like kind of a hard fight between that and Yuri on Ice, which is weird. Those two are competing against for best spot for me, but yeah, those 3 they're pretty fun. But I think overall, seasons it may not be that great, but there are some gems here and there that surprised me, like Yuri on Ice being a big surprise as far as liking something like that. But other shows like Magical Rising Project and Flip Flappers, and there's a bunch of good stuff this season that I could easily recommend. But anything else you guys got final to say about this season?
Oh, we talked an awful lot on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, fall is ending and winter is coming.
Yeah.
Yes.
Finally, can say
winter is coming.
in winter, I'm excited about that season, but we'll save that for another podcast later. I can probably talk about the shows and that, but no. So I guess we'll talk to you guys next time for another MetaVerse whenever we plan on doing one. I'm not too sure. So we'll see you guys next time.
Later on.